Greetings, fellow ATATs, or AT-ATs, or whatever you want to refer to them as. Tiki here.
And BlueDragonFive.
And Santa Claus.
And Jacob Wile.
And tonight, we're talking Mr. Banks. All right, guys, so we're talking Rogue One, a Star Wars story, at least according to the advertising, not according to the actual movie. It's just Rogue One. I just refer to it as Rogue One. It is the very first Star Wars spin-off movie of many, and this is going to be a fun discussion.
many.
Oh, spin-offs for years to come. This is going to be a fun discussion because Sandy, I know you and I basically have opposite opinions about this movie, and Jacob and Dragon, I don't know, I think they probably fall somewhere in the middle, so I think this is going to be a really fun discussion because we're going to have opinions all the way down the board with this movie. So without further ado, I kind of want to start with my first impressions, then Sandy's first impressions, to just kind of get the ball rolling on this, to see how contrasting we both are on this, and then we'll kind of get into Dragon and Jacob. So Sandy, do you want to go first, or should I go first?
I'll go first.
Go ahead. Statement.
Well, basically, in a semi-nutshell here, I honestly, to be blunt, I really don't think this movie needs an existence. It needs to exist. I think it's basically Disney. I think a lot of these Star Wars spin-offs in the future, I don't think they're necessary. A lot of them, at least. I think some of them are, they're fun and everything, but I don't think they need to exist, and this is one of them. I feel that in A New Hope, the whole thing about them getting the plans and starting it off there at the beginning of the movie, I think that leaves a nice chunk of the story left for the audience to interpret themselves and create their own kind of story. But I guess they can't do that now because it's officially canon that all of this stuff actually happened. So that's just I don't mind this existing. I don't think it needs to. I wasn't all that impressed. There were quite a few humorous moments in it, but other than that, I guess I recommend this movie, but I don't think it's a must see.
Okay,
that's just me.
All right, so my opinion, like I said, pretty much the polar opposite. I was blown away by this movie. I love this movie. I absolutely love this movie. I honestly think it's my third favorite Star Wars movie, next to A New Hope and Empire. I think it does beat out Return of the Jedi, in my humble opinion. I know that might be controversial. There's just so many things this movie hits right for me. It ties into Episode 4 spectacularly well, in my opinion. Sandy, I understand where you're coming from with the mythos of the Star Wars canon, and to tell you the truth, I have the same feeling that you have on certain Star Wars spinoffs that we're getting in the future, specifically like something like Han Solo, I think is best left to the imagination. Yeah. But I think this is actually a movie where it kind of works like The Hobbit does to the original Lord of the Rings trilogy. Not the crap Hobbit movies, but the actual Hobbit book compared to the way it's like, I think it perfectly ties in. I think it makes A New Hope better. Like, almost 40 years after A New Hope was created and Star Wars launched into existence, we have a movie that right, got it. We have a movie almost 40 years later that just, it ties in so well for me. And I think to quote Kevin Smith, like to kind of roughly quote Kevin Smith, this movie does have fan service in it, but it's just deluxe luxury fan service. It's like the highest caliber, like, fine wine and moldy cheese fan service. And I love it. I mean, I don't necessarily think the characters are that fleshed out, but in a story like this, I don't think they need to be. I think all the characters serve their functions. I think certain characters are definite highlights that make this movie really, really memorable, in my opinion. We'll get to those. I'm glowing about this movie, to tell you the truth. I like it the more I think about it. I've seen it twice. I want to see it again in 3D. I want to see it a third time. Yeah, I mean, we'll get into it more, Sandy, and I very much respect your opinion, and I don't want to come into this like, oh, Sandy, you're wrong and I'm right. I just want to make that clear. You know what I mean? I'm excited about having a conversation about it, but
well, here's the thing. I was super excited at the end because when everything started tying together, Vader came on the ship and started just slaughtering all those rebels. I was like, oh yeah, okay, I see where this is going now. Okay, I really want to see this. That was probably the most exciting part of the movie for me.
I understand that. For me, I think the whole movie came together a lot better for me. Maybe that's because I got to see it for a second time, and so I kind of knew all the characters going in.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. This is a very, very well-made movie.
Sure.
The directing is amazing, and I think the story really works. Again, I think the characters in Force Awakens are better. Just because, of course, like you said, they have more time they had more time to develop and are getting a lot more time to be developed. But yeah,
I mean, I definitely won't argue with you. The characters in Force Awakens are more memorable. They're better. They're overall more fleshed out. But of course, like you said, it's a trilogy. Having said that, like I said, I just think as a film and as a screenplay and as an overall story, I think this works a lot better than Force Awakens does in my eyes. You all know I'm not the biggest Force Awakens fan. I mean, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's just this movie just kind of blew me away in a level that Force Awakens just didn't. This movie left me kind of like wanting to go back and rewatch it over and over in a way. Like Force Awakens, I walked out of it and I was like, yeah, that was fun. That was nostalgic. But, it didn't have that heavy hitting punch that this movie did. So I know that I'm glowing about it, and I know that most people probably won't have it above the original 3 and probably not even above Force Awakens. But that's just my opinion. I'm absolutely stoked on this movie.
Well, maybe there's something here I'm not realizing, or maybe it's just something they didn't add in, but I never saw one Bothan in this movie.
Well, no, that's for the ones in Jedi. There are 2 stealing the Death Star plans, and the second one's the Bothans.
Oh, the second one is okay. Okay.
And the second one's in Jedi. They say many Mon Mothma. We see Mon Mothma for the first time in Jedi, but that was before this, obviously. But we saw her in Jedi, and then she has that line, many Bothans died to bring us this information. So that's the second one.
Oh, okay. All right. I was getting that confused with, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's fine. It's common to everyone kind of confused the Bothans. So
yeah. Okay, so I guess Jacob or Dragon, whoever wants to go next.
Okay, I guess I'll go next.
Go ahead.
So should I talk about how I felt going into it, or just the overall impressions in general?
Just kind of overall impressions.
Okay, going in, I was kind of interested to see it, and interested because it's like it's the first spin-off, and it's actually an overall second film since under new management. So it was pretty interesting to see. And leading up to it, there were some things that they probably could have marketed a bit better, or probably changed since the marketing started. So I have no idea. Things change so many times; it's hard to tell.
We're rebels, Jacob. We rebel.
But coming out of this movie, I was very, very impressed by it. I mean, they captured the war part of Star Wars like never before. Like, they put the war in Star Wars in this movie.
As I say in the video description here, absolutely.
Yeah. But I agree with, I will agree, I'm kind of in the middle of you guys. I mean, I personally think that of the 2 films that under the new management, I still think Force Awakens is slightly better than this. But this movie, this movie has its own merits. It's almost like since it's almost a standalone, it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges in a way. Since it's not.
Yeah, definitely. It's got its own tone to it for sure.
Since it's not really overall connected to the main trilogy. Mm-hmm. Overall, even though it leads into the trilogy.
It's very connected to one film in the original trilogy. It's not connected to the Skywalker saga.
Yeah, but overall, I was like a lot of the I like the characters, like some of the concepts of the characters. I mean, Like I said, I will agree they could have been fleshed out a bit more. Some of the introductions did seem kind of jumpy. You're kind of expected to automatically know these characters,
Mhm.
which kind of hurt it a little bit. I've only seen it once, so that might change once I see it again. But but yeah, overall, I was like very impressed. Like the scope, the overall look of the film, how they captured the war side of it and the desperation. I really like the overall tone and feel of this movie. I mean, no, it's very well made. Fits right in with the Star Wars pantheon.
Cool, cool. Okay, Dragon.
Okay, my expectations going in. I've been waiting for the longest time. When the ever since we've had the prequels and everything, I've always kind of thought I've always been waiting for the 3.5, or technically in this case, this movie feels very much like a 3.9. Honestly, I've been waiting for like the 3.5 era of prequels, and here we got 3.9 because it's the very end of linking up, which is kind of funny. And I thought just the concept of this film, that it'd be a good mission to steal Death Star plans. We know this happened, and we know, okay, well, they had to get the Death Star plans somehow. And if you're going to do a film kind of in between movies, or in this case, the very tail end of kind of that before Star Wars era films, that'd be kind of a good story to see. It'd be kind of a fun one. And honestly, going into it, just like with all the advertising and everything, I've kind of on a very simplistic kind of Star Wars fan level. I've just been like, I got jazzed out of my mind and getting ready to see classic stormtroopers, because we got kind of the new ones for Force Awakens, with the First Order, and here we get the classic ones, with like the, because now like all the little technical kind of upgrades and stuff as the 30 years ago, like the classic stormtroopers and variations on stormtroopers. The fact that we get to hear Vader again since. In those many years since the last thing we've heard Vader say was "No."
Where is Padme?
I'm afraid that in your anger you killed her.
All right. Let's not.
No. Anyway, so, but still, the point is, this film is, to me, I kind of read this film as kind of like, this is going to be the prequel done right. Just anything like kind of in that post, basically after we got Darth Vader onwards, kind of the films I've been interested in, and especially in the comics lately. That's kind of where they are in the comics, is fitting everything in between the films and stuff, like what Darth Vader's been doing during his time in the Darth Vader tie-in comics, which have been really good, by the way. But regardless, that era is always kind of interesting to me. Let's see the road of like where Vader kind of links up to kind of the movies we see him in, versus like what Anakin Skywalker's path to Vader was, because we saw that and we were kind of iffy on it. But coming out of this film, also going into pretty much just like on that surface level, okay, it's going to be kind of we were expecting a heist movie, like people are gonna infiltrate the Death Star and come away with the plans, and maybe not all of them are gonna make it. We got something a little different. We got more of definitely a grounded war movie, which we got towards I want to say middle to tail end of the marketing of like, okay, this is definitely gonna be more of a war movie than a heist movie. Coming out of it though, and I was very impressed and entertained. I enjoyed it very much. I thought the K2SO and the ending were just absolutely my favorite parts. It's the most glowing thing I can say about it. Like, come for K2SO, stay for the ending. My God, it's so. That ending is I have so many nice things to say about the ending. Just the whole like calling the three sections of the ending, all three of them I love very much so. But the point is, going this film coming out, I was very satisfied with.
I will say that the ending is one of the most ballsy things I've ever seen a mainstream blockbuster pull off. Hands down.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I guess that leads us right into the plot summary. So take it away, Dragon.
So here's the plot in a nutshell, folks. So an Imperial weapons designer, Orson Krennic, he forces scientist Galen Erso to assist and complete the Death Star. His plan to save his family in the process. He's being recruited. His plan to save his family goes awry, killing his wife but saving his daughter Jyn, thanks to Saw Gerrera. 15 years later, Jyn is recruited by the rebels to gain Gerrera's trust and find out the Empire's new weapon and stop it by any means necessary. Jyn learns her father has built a design flaw into the Death Star, and it's up to the team of rebels to infiltrate the Empire's data bank on Scarif, and transmit the blueprints to the rebels, which will give us all a new hope.
Okay, so speaking of A New Hope, let's get into episode 4 plot tie-ins. Now, guys, Dragon, is this where you want to kind of talk about the New Hope linking up stuff at the end?
Yeah, yeah, I might as well do it now because I figured we were gonna talk about that before we got to kind of favorite moments, but we can do that now. We can just talk about kind of the link up part now if you want.
Sure. I mean, let's kind of build to it through. Is there I think first of all, let me just say the best thing about this plot, in my humble opinion, is how they, and probably the moment where I realized this movie was something special for me personally, was they just filled in the giant plot hole about why the Death Star has the whole failsafe, the ridiculous, just fire it's been parodied to death, folks, and now it makes perfect sense and fits in beautifully
Just a farm boy on Tatooine can do it, anyone can.
I mean, when it was revealed that Galen Erso put that failsafe into the Death Star on purpose, specifically for the Rebels, my jaw dropped, and I was like, that's perfect. That makes total sense. And now that makes all that complaining and nitpicking about that one plot point irrelevant, and I love it. It's outside of the whole ending and how it ties into New Hope, that was absolutely my favorite plot point thing.
It's a retcon that makes sense, basically.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even really consider it a retcon. I consider it more just just building off of something that was already established. I mean, it's a
retcon if they're rewriting something, which was never really said or unsaid, so it's kind of new information for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a retroactive thing, I guess, kind of.
I wonder if anyone had thought of that before. Many of the fans have considered that possibility.
Well, we should at least give it props for the creativity.
Oh, definitely.
I heard something recently. I heard something that there was an effects guy that Lucas worked with. I want to say on the prequels. I don't know I don't believe it goes back as far as the original trilogy. I'm pretty sure it was an effects guy who was still with him on the prequels. I guess he kind of brought up this concept for the film. I forget if how involved this guy is in the movie. I know he's involved in this production. I'm how.
You mean John Knoll?
I believe so. I think that's who it is. What you got on?
He actually acted as one of the executive producers.
Well, I think that's the guy who might have had the inciting kind of idea for the film, because I believe he's at least been flirting with it back then, so he's probably, given that he's executive producer, he's somehow tied into kind of the concept for this film. I don't know, maybe he had the idea of tying it in there per se, because I know he's had the idea let's see sort of how the Death Star plans got to the Rebels, which we mentioned in the opening crawl. So let me touch on that a little bit right now. I want to say another briefer way of summarizing this is the New Hope opening crawl as a movie, and it's awesome. And that's why I'm really not bothered. That's why I'm not bothered at all by the fact that we don't have an opening crawl, because I just love that it's such an entertaining notion to me that, hey, we don't have an opening crawl because this is what happened right before New Hope. That's cool.
Right.
We get to see a whole movie of opening crawl.
It's technically the second Star Wars movie not to have an opening crawl.
What's the first?
The Clone Wars movie?
No,
you mean the animated one?
Yeah, technically didn't have an opening crawl.
Yeah, it did.
It's not. I remember. I know they use clips with the open. They narrate the opening.
This is the first live action one not to have an opening crawl.
Well,
that's
yeah,
very fair, yes.
I don't think we're counting the animated one, are we? I mean, I think this is.
I hope not.
Theaters, so I'm just saying.
Oh,
I don't know. It's kind of because I remember
that wasn't the original.
I've heard good things about the series as a whole, but I just remember
being so
born out of my mind in the theater when I watched that movie.
I can vouch for in that it's good, and the series also is good. I didn't stick with it.
You know what's ironic is that I couldn't stand Ahsoka in that movie. I couldn't stand her, and now I've heard she's this awesome character.
No, she's much better on Rebels from what I've heard. But,
right.
Unfortunately, I haven't seen enough Rebels. I've just seen remember the Clone Wars original series, but I've seen I'm not caught up on all the animated stuff.
It really grinded my gears how much they called R2 R2E. That really got under my skin.
R2E? Where did that
Yeah.
come from?
It's like a cutesy version of R2.
Yeah, that really got under my skin. I still remember that. Anyways.
Well, regardless,
R2E3POZ, come here.
Okay, 3PO
Hey,
is just
BB-8C.
I'm sorry, Chris, go ahead.
BBs. Where's my BBs? Anyway,
Nobody better lay a finger on my BB fingers. I don't know.
well, remember the BB fingers are like these metal little kind of things. With thumbs up, little lighters. Anyway, well, if I'm remembering correctly, I believe that's the Clone Wars anime. I think it's like he's narrating the crawl instead of showing like the words on the thing. It's like shows like it recaps it, but visually. But you're right though. This is the first.
I'm sorry. That's my mistake. I could have sworn it did have the words on the screen, but you might be right. It could just be the narration thing.
Now it's been a while, but I'm pretty sure that's how it opens. Because also the reason that's kind of now it's a little iffy where you call that like a movie that ties in is because it's the first 3 episodes of the show put into a movie. You know, would they do that sort of thing?
I mean, the show is canon, so
it is. I'm just saying, like, if you really want to kind of 3 episodes put together as like an official Star Wars movie or not, at the time I kind of took it as that, but then as time went on, I'm like, well, maybe not so much.
right.
Anyway, so basically it's like extended pilot. So anyway, back to this. The point is, I'm still wowed by it. In retrospect, like, wow, that is really clever. It didn't really occur to me to like point out, like, yeah, it is the opening crawl. Like, yeah, it is. That's why it's kind of a good move not to have the opening crawl. Not that it really would have bothered me either way, because it's not an official. The official Star Wars ones have to have the opening crawl, I think.
Oh, if they did episode 8 and it just started with like Luke Skywalker and didn't have the opening crawl, I'd be ooh, that get under my skin.
It's kind of a tradition. You need that, you know.
Right.
Oh no! You see it a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It comes up on the screen, and then immediately you cut to Luke Skywalker.
That's honestly what I'm worried is going to happen, Sandy. That is honestly like a realistic possibility that I'm worried.
He's like Yoda on Ray's back.
I can think of like a hilarious way to fix that. If you just started like that, just a long time ago, and we cut to the movie. You have Boba Fett appear, kind of Emperor's New Groove style. He says, "Wait, hold it. I think we're missing something here. Roll it back." They roll back the opening crawl, and then this is just for my own benefit. Just removes the helmet's Deadpool underneath, and he puts it back.
Okay,
on.
you know what? To be serious,
no,
for
come
just
on.
a second.
I have heard break the fourth wall. I was just throwing it in there. Like,
I have heard of a classy way to fix this problem, though. Just to throw it out there really quick, a classy way that I wouldn't be completely bothered by it if they did it this way. If it started with like an exchange between Luke and Rey really quick, and then the camera pans up to the sky and the stars, and then we get the Star Wars crawl. Like we see the stars, and then suddenly like ba 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 ba. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I wouldn't be completely opposed to that, but they'd be taking risks that I really wouldn't want them to take, because then if they get away with that, they get away with, God knows what else.
Fair enough. Anyway, Sandy, so you're kind of in opposition to us in terms of the tie-in. So, what's your stance on all this?
On the movie?
Yeah. No, just in terms of like what Dragon and I are kind of glowing about.
well, we're going about how it's kind of like we get to see a movie that's kind of based on an open crawl. All the stuff taken directly, basically, it's all before The New Hope.
Right.
Yeah, I'm kind of mixed. I'm kind of mixed because I do think that I don't know. I'm just mixed. I'm mixed on all this and this movie in general. I really don't have much to say. I
guess let's get into the tie-ins, and maybe if anything comes to it, we'll just get it there.
Yeah.
So as Tiki mentioned, we have the Death Star design flaw, which is really kind of a cool way of just kind of sewing that all together. I think, because again, it's not just. I'm going to address one of Sandy's points earlier. I will address. I think. I should probably say this for Khan, but I'll bring it up here. But I think the film doesn't necessarily. Whether it's necessary or not isn't really the question. Also, comparing it to Force Awakens it's an unfair comparison. It's like they're two very different things. They're two very things you can't really compare at all.
That's actually one of my points.
Well, I know I'm getting back to Sandy. I'm saying bring that one up as well. So I mean that. But in regards to Sandy's point, it may not be necessary, but that doesn't mean we still can't enjoy it. You're right. We don't need because we have an opening crawl, but still, it's the novelty of like, hey, we get to see all of this unfold, and it's kind of
Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely see what you were talking about, and yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, just because we may not necessarily need it doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. I totally agree.
yeah.
I completely enjoy the movie. I really do. I wouldn't mind seeing it again. That I totally agree with that, Dragon.
Yeah, I just think it's something that everyone has like a negative. No, not you saying it. I'm just saying a lot of people just kind of associate negatively. Well, people just kind of direct this like we don't really need this, but yeah, we don't, but we can still enjoy the heck out of what we got. It's a fun story in the whole Star Wars thing. It's kind of a good omen to kind of start with in all of these spin-off films.
Mm-hmm, yeah,
And I think it's important that the spin-off films didn't start with something obvious like like the young Han Solo movie. Because if it would have started with the young Han Solo movie, I think it would have felt a little too similar to the baseline Star Wars movies, whereas this is something completely different from the saga. It's something like much more adult orientated than The Force Awakens was. And I think it's just like a quintessential, like, look how far we can push Star Wars and still have it feel like Star Wars.
And again, it's kind of a great safety plan in a way of like, okay, well, look, here's what we're doing. Rogue One, it's going to be kind of our first venture out there. It's going to be something it's a story that, again, it's not necessarily it's going to make or break the franchise, even if it, in theory, bombs. Again, it's kind of a safe note to start off on.
No Rogue 2.
Yeah. There's it's kind of fun. They're dipping their toes in the water, so to speak. Like, you know what? We're gonna venture out here. If the film doesn't go so well, then again, it's kind of an unnecessary story. But at least we're feeling the audience. Like, what are they responding to? Or are they not responding to? These films that are set within the the Star Wars universe, but not our main kind of our heavy hitters with the Star Wars main films.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, again, we're not going to risk ruining Han Solo. I don't want to say ruining. We're not risking kind of starting with Han Solo or Boba Fett or Yoda or anything right from the get. We got to build to that because Boba Fett will absolutely be just, if we get anything wrong with Boba Fett right up the gate, it's going to be like, hey, fan service. You guys knew nothing about the character. You just wanted to see him again.
I don't want a Boba Fett movie. I'm just going to, I mean, we'll talk more about it in the...
I'm just saying a lot of people...
You have officially upset me.
I don't want a Boba Fett movie. I really don't.
Well, let's save more of that for that. I don't mean this to get us on that. I'm just saying that again. We'll put a pin in that little.
I'm sorry, Sandy. Sandy, it's ironic because the reason like you're kind of saying about this movie being unnecessary is exactly why I don't want a Boba Fett movie. Is because I think Boba Fett works a lot better as like a side character who kind of has a mystique about him.
Yeah, I know, and that's
Think
why.
about this, Sandy. Boba Fett could be the main bad guy in the Han Solo movie.
Or in episode 8, because god damn it, I'm still sorry, Sandy. Darn it, I am still holding on to my theory that Benicio del Toro is old Boba Fett. I am still holding on to that theory.
And that's why I kind of felt bad saying I don't think we need Rogue One because we really don't need Boba Fett or Han Solo either. But a movie about them.
I tell you what we do need though. We'll save it for the end. But there is
we might need Boba Fett because if it's continuing the story, then we want to know what he's doing next or what
I'll
he did.
Just throw it out there right now. We absolutely need Obi-Wan.
I very much Obi-Wan's the one I really much like. I've been pitching that one for years. I've always wanted to see.
We need Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan needs to happen.
Because I feel like a little. Honestly, I know we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit. Well, let's try to move on after this. Okay, so let's just get back on top. But let me say this much: I think Obi-Wan, because it connects to the whole Rogue One necessary or not point. I think Obi-Wan is basically it's in the same vein of Rogue One. That it's a story that. It's in a place where we could definitely tell a story here, but Obi-Wan be a little bit more. I think we need to see Obi-Wan a little bit more because there's definitely a real story there you might really want to know versus Rogue One. Like it's a story, it can be told, but not everyone's really wondering about it. Okay, Death Star planes are made on there. Death Star planes got stolen. They had to be, and we got that all kind of summarized for us in the opening crawl. But Obi-Wan's like, man, stuff happened. We gotta wonder why didn't Obi-Wan go to this kid over these major? What does Obi-Wan do? How was it when he was in exile? There are questions unanswered versus Rogue One, just one question which we know gets answered. But still, it's like the way they went about tackling those things. And I think what I'm circling with bringing up all these spin-off films is that Rogue One, in a way, is like it's a good way to test like how we're going to tackle the rest of those of this first movie.
I kind of call this movie the Titanic of the Star Wars movies.
But much better.
And here's just something else that I thought of. You know, maybe because we don't need a Han Solo or a Boba Fett movie. As much as I hate to say it, we especially don't need a Boba Fett movie. I think if Disney just made like an official film that wasn't released in theaters for Boba Fett, you know, and how he escaped and
Like
what
a
his life
Netflix
was like.
thing?
Yeah, like a Netflix.
I would
movie.
be
Remember
down
how
for that.
cruel an April Fool's joke that was, and they're doing a Star Wars series on Netflix, and they reviewed it. It was so cruel when they did that.
I personally wouldn't like to see that because I mean the adrenaline every year of expecting the next installment. I like that.
Right.
I think I see what you're saying. Like, basically, do kind of an unofficial, kind of essentially a fan film, but you know, like with
Officially licensed by Disney and everything.
yes, I mean that, but I mean like not like kind of it's kind of out of continuity.
Yeah, just something on Netflix or something like that. That'd be great.
That would be Disney doing something with it. Disney's eyeing Netflix. That's kind of the rumor going on right now. So that would be something there. Kind of.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's going to happen, Dragon. Mark my words. It'll happen.
Or, here's an idea. How about a Han Solo and Boba Fett series? That'd be cool.
And again, I'm saying
Right,
we might get that with the Han Solo movie. Again, I'm sorry. Let's put the Netflix conversation. We'll put that in the future.
Yeah.
There's something I want to say about Orson Krennic here. Whenever you guys finish up.
Well, we're gonna get. I mean, we're gonna kind of circle around to Krennic when we get to characters. If
Okay. All right.
Hold your Krennic.
yeah.
That sounds dirty for some reason.
Anyway, so real quick, I think we got two more real main tie-in things before we get really into Easter egg hunts. So in terms of tie-ins, let's talk about we have the. I was going to talk about the red and gold leaders.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of the things where no one was expecting that to happen, and it was just like, oh my god, there they are.
What's so cool about that too? That one's kind of like even if you don't understand, I think you're gonna be mesmerized by the effect because what they do in this really amazed me. Tiki, is that the way they got the red and gold leaders and they used archival footage and they made it look this. I knew there was something about. Oh my god, it looks pulled from the movie. I love how they kind of mixed that in there.
Okay, a plot point that Kevin Smith pointed out, credit to him, is the Red 5. There's a position that opens up with Red 5 because Red 5 is the ship that we see go down, and that's the position that Luke Skywalker is going to fill.
Oh yeah.
Why is it always the fat guy that always gets shot down?
They slow the ship down.
Star Wars is secretly a fat shaming.
Eliminate the fat guy first.
Fat guys need bigger ships.
Star Wars is fat shaming people.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm almost as offended about Star Wars as I am about Starbucks cups.
What?
Which is not offended at all.
Basically nobody got offended by Starbucks cups.
It was a joke every time. I made that joke every time I was at Disneyland. I was like, I'm offended by that cup. It's not holiday enough. It's like they put a candy cane and a gingerbread man on, but it's not enough. It's not enough. I'm offended.
Well, at the place where I work, they have there's a Starbucks there, and they have this big display board. And it has all the cups on this display board, and there's like 15 different cups you can choose from.
Excuse me for interrupting.
And they're all red with different white designs on them.
15.
So like now you have like 15 cups in your
25 designs for the 25 days of Christmas. I'm offended.
Can we get back to Star Wars, please? Can we please?
That's
Not Starbucks. Star Wars. In this case, Rogue One.
Not Starbuck, the character from Battlestar Galactica, but Star Wars.
What about Moby Dick?
Not Starbuck from Moby Dick. No, not that Starbuck.
Or not
So,
Starduck.
all right.
Tangent used to end.
Can I just say, every time Galen Erso called Jin Stardust, I thought of that movie. That's why I brought that movie up.
I just saw it as an endearing nickname, but okay.
No, it is an endearing nickname. I agree. I'm just like, I love that movie and think it's
I thought
really
it was so
underrated,
sweet how he labeled the Death Star plans under Stardust. That was nice.
Yeah, that was cool.
He's thinking of her. And she's kind of like to him as father, like, I'm trying to save people, I'm trying to save my daughter in a way. That's why he kind of names it like the big plan to save the the galaxy, and like basically defeat the Death Star is like tied into my daughter in some ways.
Totally.
Uh, the Kyber crystals. I love my pseudoscience, and I love just them bringing up the Kyber crystals, which has been a big thing. It's been around Star Wars. A lot of people might forget on because it's kind of in the background. It was in the original script for Star Wars, where it was about the hunt for the Kyber crystals, and the Kyber crystals are what powers the lightsaber and kind of powers maybe the blasters too, but definitely the lightsabers.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I believe Jin also wears one around her neck too. I think that's her necklace is made of a Kyber crystal.
And I believe like the reference to the Wills was also like the name of the original Star Wars movie.
That's correct, Jacob. That's correct. Yeah.
The reference to the Wills.
Here's something that just popped into my head. Since they killed her father, how did they make the second Death Star? Did they just
They still had all his work.
Okay, all right, because they didn't have.
Krennic. He worked with Krennic. I mean, I'm sure, Krennic. It's on file somewhere. I'm sure.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, because they stole a copy of the plans, but not. All right.
Yeah,
or the original plans. I mean.
Right.
I mean, I would think the Empire were like, you know what, we're going to keep. This is where we kind of send out the information. You know, I'm sure somewhere we're going to keep a copy of this.
Exactly. Okay.
Well, actually, I'm sorry. Real quick, actually, you know what it was? It was that they had the plans with Revenge of the Sith. Remember, they were starting building Death Star, and that's. I mean, Galen was brought on to finish it.
That's true. That's very true.
I want to say the way it broke down. This is just a guess. Bear in mind, I'm sure somewhere it's confirmed, but it's that I believe Galen was the guy who came up with how to weaponize the Kyber crystals into the laser on the Death Star. The rest of it was like the main construction was kind of. And once they had like the plans for like the laser, they kind of go, okay, we use Kyber crystals, and the rest of them they just kind of ran from it there. That's the way I think it broke down. Sorry.
Okay, so I guess the only thing else to get into is the ending, right?
Yeah, so you want to get into it now, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think we should. I think
so. Again, the ending is just basically we're not going to cover the ending for favorite scenes because again, it's like this. I think unanimously is probably, at least for me, is the best part of the film. It's my favorite part.
I mean, holy crap, that ending! I mean, dang.
It has three fantastic elements. One, we have this moment where we kill off all our characters.
And that was the moment that blew me away, and I was like, I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe this is happening. This is amazing.
And then we have we have that, and again, I love that it's not just like we just killed him in the process.
Exactly.
It's the fact that it's a real acceptance of your demise, and that's like the really gutsy thing of like. We have someone's pointed out it's very similar to the Watchmen kind of shot of like Dan and Lori kind of stand there as they're kind of being blown away. But in this case, though, it's really nice. It's a much more lovely kind of quieter acceptance of death. Just like these two friends are there and they're being kind of destroyed as they realize we won, but this is going to cost us their life. And they're kind of having that realization through the movies. Each of them are being one by one kind of plucked off and killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Really.
It's funny because I've kind of been turned off of disaster movies in general because every disaster movie in Hollywood, it's like not only does the main character survive, but like most of the main character's family survives. This is like the opposite of that, and I love that for that reason. It's just like nobody gets out of this alive. Not one single primary character. It's like the only people that get out of this alive are like the kind of minor rebellion characters like Mothma, like she gets out of it alive because she has to be in the next movie. But all the characters that were introduced in this movie just die. And like Dragon said, it's not in a way where it's just like, oh, let's just pluck it all off. Like in my humble opinion, I know people really like the last Harry Potter book. I thought that J.K. Rowling went a little kill crazy in the last Harry Potter book and kind of started killing people off for the sake of killing people off in drama. I think this is the opposite of that, where it's like every single death in this movie meant something, and maybe it didn't kind of contribute to the overall story, but it contributed to me in the overall like emotion of the film and just kind of how the film kind of left an impression on you. I mean, I definitely think certain death scenes were more powerful than others. Like I think the two standouts for me were probably
K2SO.
Oh my God, K2SO.
That was so sad. I felt so bad when he got killed.
Oh man,
And I also think Chariot and Baz were also a really good, they kind of went out together, like kind of
You
fighting.
were the force, the
alongside each
forces
other.
with me.
Right, yeah, I thought that was really badass as well. Anyways.
But also, with that, too, before we move on to the other two elements of the I just want to say I love how, in addition to kind of the quiet acceptance of it all, I love that it's also it works super well for their arcs, and that, again, so that's their, the rebels, as we saw in New Hope, the rebels don't exactly have the happiest of endings. So again, they keep getting, like, poor guys like Porkins keep getting the raw end, and they die a lot. A lot of rebels, unless your name is Skywalker or you're related to a Skywalker, you're gonna die, most likely.
Oh, God.
Like poor Dak. Dak's dead.
Right.
And Biggs. I mean, poor Biggs. I forget Biggs died or not. A lot of these rebels, they kind of blend in. It's kind of one of the cons I have later on, that the names aren't exactly super memorable. But not some of them are like they went a little too eclectic with the names. I think, especially with.
I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Like Imwe is like the only way I can refer to that guy, because I keep forgetting shit. Chinant Imwe. I don't know.
Chirrut Imwe.
Yes, I'm never going to be able to remember.
Chirrut.
Chirrut. Is it Chirrut, or are you just saying Chirrut?
I think it's Chirrut.
Chirrut.
Chirrut Imwe. DHIRRUT.
Well, unless you own the action figure, I don't think you're really going to remember that guy off the back of your hand like that. But, well, I'm sorry, unless you have the name in front of you somehow.
But, to be fair, I think it might be a situation where maybe young kids watching this who aren't as familiar, like, with the built-in Star Wars character names, like, maybe that generation of people might, might be more on board with these more elaborate character names. I don't know. Maybe,
but I honestly, part of me thinks that time might pass. Like, now we need to maybe simplify the names a little more. I'm not saying like we necessarily. I'm not saying it's a bad thing to simplify the names. I'm just saying, like, again, just for simplicity. Like, Ray is a much easier name to grasp than
Ray, Poe, Finn. Yeah,
Ray, Finn, Poe. It's pretty simple. Like, they have a really simple first name, and the rest of you, Poe Dameron, it's like sounds catchy. You need kind of a catchy, kind of like it kind of links to the other one a little better,
Aw.
Anyway, what was I getting at? My point is, I love how they fulfill kind of their destinies as rebels, and that you're going like an actual war movie. Like Saving Private Ryan, people are going to die. You're going to get into this thing. You're not going to necessarily come out the end. And in particular, Jin, her whole arc is based around she's kind of has a thing against the rebels, because in the way rebels are kind of responsible for the rebels and the whole war, the whole conflict is responsible for destroying her family. She's kind of grown up on the raw end of the deal. Saga raising her in the middle of this conflict, especially being raised by an extremist type. It's really done a number on her. By the end, like she's really against rebels. She's trying not to get involved, and by the end, she is a rebel, and what that means also is like you're sacrificing yourself for a greater cause, which is absolutely what she does, like her father before. I think it's a moving arc for all. I think it's a really it's a powerful. I think it's powerful.
Yeah, we'll talk more about the arcs when we get into the individual characters for sure.
I'm just saying that action signifies all their arcs kind of coming to a beautiful close in a way. Anyway, so let's see. Other thing, of course. Oh my God, the Vader scene.
Vader. Oh, he's only in like less than like 3 minutes of the movie, but dang.
I think it's like Gareth Edwards one-upping himself from the whole Godzilla bit where Godzilla breathes fire down the mouth of the Mutos.
Yeah.
Because that was like a money shot, and this was like a money scene. It was just like 3 minutes of just like, oh my God. Oh, it's so cool. Oh my God.
This was a Breaking Bad money bed of money shots. I'm just like, hey, look here. I mean, he's like throwing guys up to the ceiling. He's moving, and I'm convinced that he's closing that door. By the way, I'm convinced that Vader's closing that door.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God, but it's so great. And the lighting, and my favorite part of it, I love how he has like a Jaws-like reveal of like you hear the breathing in darkness, and then the lightsaber shows him. Oh.
And it's the one time we ever see a lightsaber in this movie, and I love how the lightsaber in this movie is not a symbol of hope; it's a symbol of horror. That's such a contrast to the other movies.
Yes,
that's like a great build-up. Like he's there, but you don't see him. And for one thing, he has a good reason to be wearing black.
Oh yeah.
And I love it's like when you reveal him with that Jaws-like reveal, he is then revealed, much like Jaws, to be an unstoppable force kind of pursuing the Death Star plans. I love how kinetic the sequence is, where like it keeps getting handed off, and then these rebels, they go from like, like, again, I love, not only are these guys rebels, they're the guys on the ships with like the funny helmets. They're the rebels. They're the first rebels we saw in that movie. They're the first funny hat rebels from the on
Funny
that ship, and I just love
rebels,
seeing that ship. You know what I mean, like the shovel hat guys.
Sure.
Regardless, I love seeing those. Right when I saw those guys on the birds, like, oh my god, we're there. I put one transition to, by the way. Also, I love that we're all linking up. We're on the same ship. We're on the same hallways. It's all in the same environment. Like we're getting closer and closer to that ending. We're like, okay, it's being handed off, and these guys are like paneling, help us, please. And they realize again, much like our characters down there, they realize they're gonna die. So hey, save the cause. Take it, run.
I would honestly say that might be the third most effective death in the movie after K2SO and then Chariot. Is those guys like just collectively, just because my god, just whoever those extras were just really sold that moment where it's like they all were just like, oh, we are screwed.
Yeah, and they knew it.
Yeah, exactly. It was so good.
They were like, go, close the door.
And I love, by the way, that what they're doing there is with Vader is like, in a way, Vader didn't need the lightsaber, but the lightsaber was like, I love it. It didn't feel like fans, just felt like, it's kind of it's in a way, it's another kind of retroactive thing where they're making something, New Hope a little better in that. We only get the one lightsaber battle in A New Hope, which is fine. It's kind of a simpler one. It's not as
right.
It's not as elaborate and like kind of really cool with the set as
it's a battle of words more than a battle of power, essentially.
Exactly. And what I'm getting at with all this Vader stuff, including the lightsaber and everything, is that how it makes New Hope a little better with the Vader stuff. And that is that Vader very much he's kind of what he is in this movie, but a little more you get more of a build here. Is that basically gives us more of a build in New Hope when we see Vader do all this cool stuff, like so we know what this guy's capable of. Looking at New Hope, like, oh my god, that's why this guy's kind of reserved in the corner. Then he's force choking the guy, and then he's battling the one Jedi, and he's killing the mentors, and now it makes all that stuff a little better in a way. It's like, oh wow, we know what this guy's capable of, and seeing him act. That the bits of Vader we get where it's just kind of the trained dog of the Empire in New Hope makes it a little bit more than the trained dog. Like, oh my god, not only is this guy a trained dog, he is the trained dog of the Empire.
Right.
He's like the Rottweiler or the pit bull of the Empire. Like, you do not want to. This guy, he's lumbering around. He's so powerful the way he's walking. He's like every move is very intricate. Like he's like lifting a guy to the ceiling, moving him to the side, taking the guns away. Oh, it's so great. But again, I think the moment, as much as I love that, my other favorite moment that is just all about this ending here, like that moment, and of course the ending where we didn't need it, but I thought it was the perfect note where the plans are handed off after we get that awesome Vader shot of the ship going away. We then see we're on the ship. From A New Hope, we're on the ship. The ship with all those.
The only thing that would have made it better is if we literally just like saw the Star Destroyer chasing it.
Yeah. There's one thing for me that would have made it better. There's one thing that would have made it better. It's set up, so I can't really complain that much. But it's that I would have just loved to see in the background if C-3PO and R2D just went by. We didn't like spend it if they just in the background. We didn't need like have them give a line or anything. We saw them moving in the background, so we can set that up.
That's very fair. I'll agree with that. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, they establish that they're going to be on that ship in the movie.
Sure,
they say like they're about to be boarded on the ship, but still, it's like would have been nice to see them in the background. They get like a little like blink, it's like, hey, they're there. But for me though, here's the moment though. This is the moment where it's a rebel. They have the plans. They're giving it to Leia, and like the door opens, and we don't see her because I was just so on the edge of my seat wondering, oh my god, we get to see. Okay, it's gonna be a stand. We're gonna see her from behind. But still, that's fantastic. Still, the fact that it's Leia, because I've been this whole movie. A part of me was wondering. I just really want them to have like Leia somehow. I don't know how they're gonna do it. If they can just somehow get Leia in there, imply like someone from behind, like we got in that moment, like someone from behind just established that Leia's on the thing and she's like being handed planes so she can put in put in R2D2.
Right.
And then when the line. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just getting caught up in it. It's just I love that moment where she says, "Now we have hope." Basically, it's something along the lines of seeding in A New Hope with that one line as we see. Classic 77 Carrie Fisher brought to it by some wondrous effects. And I love it. It's just there just enough for like 3 seconds or whatever, however long it takes to say hope. That's all we need. Just the effect.
Exactly.
Just perfect for that one moment for me. Just like, oh my god, like I'm satisfied enough that it says, we're gonna see her. Oh my god, it's not a lookalike, it's the actual. Oh, I pulled it. It's Yes.
I was actually kind of blown away in the theater when I saw that. Like, that's amazing. Like, yeah,
It's come a
Tarkin was
long
in.
way from Tron Legacy, right?
Well, let's not go there.
No, I'm just saying, like, Tron Legacy was the starting point, and this is just like the perfecting of that kind of technology.
And in terms of tying it in, we then go to hyperspace in the exact moment where they pull out of hyperspace at the beginning of Lightspeed, in the beginning of A New Hope. It's like they come out of it in the beginning, and this is like them going into it.
What do you guys think? Would you have liked to see the Star Destroyer going into hyperspace too? I was kind of waiting for that.
No, it wasn't necessary.
I'm happy.
I think
All right,
Again,
fair
we saw one of them go into hyperspace. We know where it's going to come out. I think it's implied that, okay, they're following closely behind. We had the shot of Vader. If we had more, I mean, it wouldn't hurt it, but still, I think that shot of Vader is enough. Like, okay, Vader's going after him.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And here's the thing. Tarkin was in the dark most of the time, if not all the time. He was in the dark.
Yeah.
I feel that, like, he was easier to you could tell he was CGI. I feel that
because what they did, they had him behind, and he had a reflection going on for the most part. That's what they had. It was in dark, and he was from behind with the little reflections, what we really saw of him. And then they turn around and just amaze you even further. Like, oh, that's not just...
I mean, I know they got a look-alike, and then they did a bunch of CG stuff. I think they did a lot better with Carrie Fisher than they did.
Keep in mind, Carrie Fisher has like 2 seconds of screen time, whereas Tarkin probably has like maybe 5 to 10 minutes. At least.
I suppose, but it was just in his face. You could tell that he didn't quite look right.
But all of this just kind of goes to show, like, they really, in terms of tying it in, just they put it to the point where a lot of people are saying is, and I think they're absolutely right, that if you took the credits away in a way, or even if you took the crawl away, because again, this is kind of the opening crawl itself personified. It's it's the opening crawl without just putting the text instead of words in a way. Like, you could have just cut from, okay, goes into hyperspace, comes out of hyperspace after we pan down from the crawl. A New Hope. It's like, yes,
right.
Oh, we're starting there, and so it's great. To me, like, all the technology, everything just in the setting just really spoke to, like, a lot of practicality, a lot of. I'm sorry, I'm jumping into a different category, but you know what I mean. It's all. I think it all fits nicely.
Okay, so I guess should we get into the characters now then?
Sure.
Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. Let's go Easter egg hunting.
Right.
Easter egg hunting. Okay.
So we get. You take us through. You go first.
Let me just say, by far my favorite fan servicey moment, which is totally a fan servicey moment, but I love it, is the whole like, "Oh, my friend doesn't like you either" guy.
I know who that is.
When that guy showed up,
I got a funny story for you. So that is Ponda Baba is the walrus-looking guy with the mouth thing, and the guy, the I don't like him guy. That's Evanson, but not just Evanson. Remember, it's Dr. Evanson.
Doctor.
I think it's like Dr. Cornelius or Dr. something like kind of a fancy. I think it's one of those. Like, boys, it's Dr. Evanson. I said Doctor.
That's great. I just that was another moment where I was like, "Oh, this movie's wonderful."
Who said Dr. Evanson? Oh, the Ponda Baba did.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sorry, I was trying to figure out if that was the credits or what.
It was so great too. You got to know those guys. They had to get out of that. Somehow they passed through that. Luckily, they passed through that city so they could be at the cantina.
Exactly.
They were just passing through. It's fine. It's logical enough. It's fine. And
now, were they on Tatooine?
No.
Well, no, not in here. No, here they were on Jeddah, but they're going to be on Tatooine and obviously, New Hope. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I love Yavin 4, how that's recreated, and especially the guys on the in the towers, kind of like watching the ships fly out.
Yeah.
I did see a Wampa in the background. I definitely saw a Wampa in the background.
Where?
I don't remember exactly where. I honestly think it might be like a civilized Wampa.
Remember, we have the probe droid from Empire.
No, I'm not kidding, Sandy. I think it might be like in the mix, like when we see a bunch of rebels.
I think
it might be a civilized Wampa because I don't know.
Yes, you did. There's definitely a mouse droid on that the Imperial base.
And that's
Oh,
actually
yeah.
what this wasn't in the movie itself, but more about my actual theater. A guy dressed up in an inflatable Jabba the Hutt suit.
We actually have some of Jabba's dancers at the Marcel Gur's guys. They're watching Jabba's dancers.
Yeah, I noticed that. Right.
I love that we linger
I
on the
thought that was
blue
just
milk.
random dancing Twi'lek, though.
I don't know. I've heard it. I think it could be.
I mean, it could just be like the
some
same
people are-
race. You know what I mean?
I don't like the idea that ties in the Jabba though. Some people just have kind of bought into it. It's one of Jabba's dance. I'm going to go with that. It sounds kind of cool. Like, yeah, Jabba. Maybe it's how you earn some extra cash on the side. He sells. He kind of sells it
Oh,
on.
God.
Like, it's
Oh,
a premium
God.
channel in a way. So, I
Yeah,
love-
Dragon, like you said, the blue milk. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
how that's like a very cinematic moment.
again, it's the first Easter egg. It's like we just linger on it, just like a little much of like, yeah, there's a blue milk, guys. 'Cause I was in the theater, and my buddy next to me was like, elbowing him, it's blue milk. At first, I had to remind him.
right.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
sitting next to Monkey, and I definitely did that to Monkey as well. I was like, "Oh, blue milk, Monkey, blue milk."
You farmers love blue milk. Now, let's see. This was really cool. I found this out after in the aftermath, particularly specifically what this was. Vader's base. So Vader location where Krennic's beating Vader. That's specifically that's on Mustafar.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I figured Mustafar. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely Mustafar.
Yeah, I just think it's really cool.
You know, where he actually, the place where he got his arms and legs cut off.
Sure.
This thing's really cool that he's kind of taken that, like the place that really made him into Darth Vader is kind of where his kingdom is in a way. It's kind of like this is like private residence is on the place where that turn him into Vader. It's kind of cool, and I love the how we see Vader in kind of this vulnerable thing with the tank, and I think it kind of connects. A part of me wonders, at first wondered, if it was like a direct connection to the air chamber he's in Empire. Like if
Yeah.
I'm not so sure anymore.
I also
because
think visually it kind of ties into the heating chamber that Luke's in at the beginning of Empire.
Yeah, the bath's the tank.
Right.
Yeah, the healing water tank. You're right. It's either if it's not water, it's like some sort of gel thing made especially for burns. That's kind of what he's in. And originally, I thought it was like when that thing drains. That's what we saw in Empire. That's like the thing drain. It's like him finishing putting on the costume in that chamber. But no, whether it's that or if it's something else, just the point is that he has that and there's like his private quarters where he can kind of get all the air he needs and like take the helmet off so he can put the costume on, be in that location. It's kind of his little private little chamber we see in Empire. Anyway, the point is, I love seeing all these little technical things like how we get Vader as himself. Like what is he doing in his meantime? He's got severe burns and everything, so he's got to really keep that cool down. He's in a constant state of healing in a way.
Sure.
And it's not.
And then, of
it's
course,
really,
we see the guards in there, the Imperial guards.
Oh yeah.
and this really
Yep.
this really isn't an Easter egg, but I think it's cool that they got James Earl Jones to return.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
really nice.
sure.
I think that's great.
I don't know why people are so surprised by it. Of course, they're going to get James Earl Jones.
He's still alive, isn't he?
Yes,
Come
that's
on.
what I'm saying. Why is everyone saying, "Oh, I was so surprised to see James"? What did you think they were going to do? And other than that, they would have gotten Matt Sloan. I get that, I guess.
Or they would have gotten Corey Burton for some reason. I'm just
Sure.
making a Disneyland joke. I'm sorry.
Nicholas Cage.
But I am
I'm just saying
convinced
Corey
that.
Burton does everything for Disney. Anyway,
I am,
I'm
however,
sorry.
convinced that if should the worst happen, I believe Matt Sloan would pretty much because he does them in the video games and in the animation. I would be surprised if he wasn't the guy to kind of fill in after that.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's years away.
Of course.
Many years away. As you said, we saw the Evan. Warwick Davis is in the film. He was one of the short Saw Gerrera rebels.
Yes, that was great.
Is he gonna be like a recurring role in like every future Star Wars movie now?
Well, I mean, he was. They did a whole thing for him in The Force Awakens. Said looks like that's the case. So like, he's just going to be in every Star Wars film they can fit him in.
Is he gonna be in Episode 8 too?
I would expect that, yeah, because they like having the original cast as either kind of consultancy. So you got Peter Mayhew.
It's like Wicket comes back as an old Ewok.
That's actually very. I would like to see Ewoks. I would like to see Ewoks redeemed in Episode 8. That's one of the things I would.
I just checked. Yep, Warwick Davis is in Episode 8.
Yep.
It would be kind of cool to see Endor again, and just kind of like a place of history. Basically, they played it like kind of this historical side of like, yeah, this is where the Empire got beat by a bunch of teddy bears.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
Yeah, we won. This is where the Empire was defeated, right above this moon, and right here's the bunch of Ewoks just went nuts and kind of killed a whole bunch of stormtroopers. Very good. Like, what if Finn was in the scene too? He's like, ooh. He's just being really disturbed by the fact, oh my god, so many stormtroopers killed the Ewoks. Oh my god, Poe and Finn, it's like a little side story. If they never seen the movies, we get like a little short of just like Poe saying, hey Finn, let's go to this, like, they have this, oh my god, they go on Star Tours, and they go to Endor.
Oh god, yes.
Because that's what the ride does.
Okay, hold on. Now that we're just kind of on this tangent, Star Tours needs to be like a YouTube series.
Yeah, it'd be great.
That would be amazing. Just like a Star Tours, like, you know, like tourist destinations in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah. And you could have a droid as your lead. Like, if not, I prefer the Paul Rubens one. But, you know, if you want to fit
the Paul Rubens one would be great. Yeah.
But even though sometimes they might give him like a new droid. Points to get a droid character. Maybe not necessarily C-3PO and R2D. That'd be cool if they can get him. But if not, again, points a droid character. You get through that, being the captain of the ship, and then you have some Star Wars occupants. You know, some notable ones perhaps, and maybe not some new guys.
Right.
Anyways, the point is. Sorry, moving on. Let's see. So again, we saw the probe droid, we saw some ads. We got some old school tech from the Star Wars universe. It was really cool. We got Mon Mothma, of course. Tarkin and Leia. Just kind of some cameos of characters that have their important cameos to some degree. Last thing. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Tiki.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to actually go at 12.
Oh, whatever. That's fine.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. We're kind of running a little long on this, anyways.
Okay.
Vader's in the New Hope costume, which did that throw you for a loop?
No, I kind of expected it.
Let me
It's
say
not the same one, is it?
Well, I mean, the points they recreated, they made it look identical to the first. They changed the costume in Empire with because they made better materials and stuff. They streamlined like all these subtle touches. Basically, you can tell it doesn't look like the average Vader you might remember. It's like he's a little more. The costume's a little more. It looks a little plasticky, and the eyes are a little red on it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I'm sorry, son. Point that. Anyway, it was released and points at the deep cuts reference. Like they really wanted to link it up with New Hope, so they modeled after the New Hope costume Vader had. All the little technical things too. Like made it look cheap too, in a way, in a good way.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go to the characters then.
Characters. All right. So let's start with Katniss Everdeen. I mean, Jyn.
Oh, come on! Tell me
I'm sorry. I had to reference it.
Tell me you've changed your view on.
Yes, I have changed my tune on it. Yes.
And that shot wasn't even in the movie.
I know. And the fact that line wasn't in the movie kind of makes up for everything, in my opinion.
What line was it again?
We're rebels, aren't we? We rebel. Okay, Jyn, like, I think that Jyn's character arc in the movie is better than the actual execution of it, if that makes any sense. Like, yeah. I honestly think that Jyn and Cassian being the lead characters are two of the weaker points of the movie for me. I think the supporting cast is more interesting, and I wish more time was spent on the supporting cast. Like, Jyn is a good character. I like the idea behind her. Like Dragon pointed out, I like the idea that she's kind of jaded to the Rebel Alliance. She's kind of like our doorway into this whole new concept of the Rebel Alliance maybe not being as squeaky clean as we kind of saw in the original trilogy. But I don't know. There's just something about she's definitely I do like I'd like her just about as much as I liked Rey, maybe a little bit more. Because Rey, I kind of thought that she kind of got the powers a little too easily and everything. Whereas Jyn is definitely a more kind of like down to earth, like she's got more of a struggle than Rey does. But Rey, I would say maybe Daisy Ridley has a better performance and maybe better lines and more memorable lines than Jyn does. So, but overall, you know, it's like Jyn is not the most memorable standout thing about this movie to me, but she is very serviceable to the plot and you know, kind of does give us that pivotal kind of emotional connection to the Death Star and everything. So, Yeah, that makes sense.
I like Jin. I would have liked, basically with all these characters, kind of the same thing goes, and I think they're all interesting and diverse. I really liked them all. I would have loved to kind of get to know them a little more. However, I do think in terms of for what serves this film, I think we know what we need to know about each of them. So it's kind of a mixed thing of like, I would have liked to spend more time, but we didn't really need to. Because I think their dynamics kind of balance that out. That, again, I think Jin and Cass, I really liked Jin and Cassian individually, but also as well together. Like, I think they played off each other very well. They have very similar backgrounds, but they went a different way. They had a good parallel with each other. And that Jin also, she has this thing where she has these realistic complexities with her father. I love how we're kind of also doing kind of the father issues in Star Wars with her in a good way. It's a different way too. It's like that her father isn't a bad guy, but he's working with the bad guys, and she has to kind of live down the fact that your father
comes in. Hey Gareth, I've got an idea for you. I'm sorry.
And again, she kind of brings this great outside view on the rebels, because again, she kind of brings especially paired with the Cassian character, and that Cassian represents what she's been saying about the rebels. Basically she's supposed to represent that the rebels aren't exactly the glowing heroes. It's war. They've had to do some questionable things, which Cassian epitomizes. They have that poor sap who has the broken arm. He can't climb, and Cassie has to shoot him in the back. It's a merciful kill, but still, it's a kill, man.
Right.
And again, I really like kind of her dynamics with all the, she's a great kind of a lightning rod for these characters in a way. She brings out kind of the best in all of them. I love her bond with kind of this eclectic rebel team. I love how they're not all rebels either. I love how they're all kind of just on this journey together. They all kind of know each other, like Imwe and Malbus. Malbus is like the big guy with the gun. Again, so unfortunately, I wish some of these characters were simplified in the names or something. Basically, a little more. I don't know.
Never even caught his name.
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Some of the. I wish they could have either said the names a little bit more. Like those two guys.
To be fair, I do think not saying the name of characters that are more minor is kind of a thing that's been going on in Star Wars since the beginning.
Yeah, there's minor and then there's his background too. Again, Ponda Baba, no one knew Ponda Baba's name was until the toys came out. Let's be fair. These guys are kind of you knew Admiral Akbar, of course. He wasn't a main guy, but you knew his name because it's Admiral Akbar.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
Let's see.
But the gun's name, his name was only mentioned once, if only anything.
If at all, honestly.
Yeah, I see your point.
Let's see. I'm just going through it here. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else on Jin. Again, I just really like. I really can't compare this movie, any element of this movie, to Force Awakens because they're very different things. But I think Rey's a little more. I think Rey's a little bit more.
I think aesthetically, the characters are a little too similar to each other.
There was that theory going around that, again, I was kind of wondering in the movie at some point. The ending definitely put stomped this theory out. I'll say. There was a theory going around that Jin might be Rey's mother.
I'm glad that didn't happen.
I would say though, back when it was in rumors, that is kind of interesting. It was kind of brought up, maybe there's a reason all the women in Star Wars are British.
Star Wars needs to be related to each other.
You're right. They don't need to be. I'm just saying. I like the idea that someone when it's floating around, I like the concept that it would be someone who's not in a character we've seen before. This would be a new character, someone not directly related to Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, points someone not it's I forget who some of the ideas were, because not a lot of women in Star Wars, but points. Moving on. So again, Cassian Andor kind of represents, again, he's been living the rebellion since he was 6 years old, much like Jin. He has a lot in common with her because of that, and basically through the film, his arc is gaining trust in her, and that right from the beginning, she tries to escape the first time she's sprung by the ropes because she doesn't want any part of this, and then he's kind of he trusts her to the point where we saw that he would kill a guy because it serves the mission. He doesn't kill Galen later on because of his friendship with Jin. He's kind of his trust in Jin of no, I can't kill her father. That is, you gotta remember, the rebellion in this movie, they're definitely not the glowing good guys, because they're willing to, hey, we're going to use this girl, unbeknownst to her, we're going to kill her father when we use her to find him.
Right.
It's pretty cruel. I'm just saying. And again, this guy just kind of embodies the complexities of the war they're fighting. So let's move on to a happier element. K2SO.
Oh, God bless it, all into Dick.
Have you guys got to Orson Krennic yet?
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, maybe we should get to Orson next. Maybe.
Since Sandy's waiting for it, sure, that's fine.
Let's get the Krennic. Sandy, take it away.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, basically, what I realized noticed in the trailer is they made him really seem like a badass, and in the movie he isn't really. he's more of a wimp. I mean, he goes after her at the end with a little blaster. It's not very threatening. I mean, he screws up the entire movie. Like, I mean,
I think that's kind of the point of Krennic's character arc, though.
I know.
He's unsuccessful Tarkin. That's the gag.
right.
I just think it's funny how they made
the
him
most
so threatening.
You know what's good about Krennic is that he actually kind of makes the whole like middle management quality to Kylo Ren a little bit more serious, because Krennic is definitely like the most middle management Star Wars villain we've gotten so far.
See, that's kind of the point. He's overcompensating with the Death Star. That's his thing. He wants to look good. He's like that little clamoring dog of like, hey, Spike, we're pals, right? With the Empire. It's what he is. He's trying to be the big dog. He's sucking up the Vader. That's why he's trying to go make sure, hey, can you tell General Tarkin not to, he's like talking to the principal. He's like, can you please tell Tarkin not to take credit, not to take my Death Star away from me, please? He took my toy. Essentially, that's kind of what he's doing. But again, I like there is kind of a menace in that he's representing the Empire on a surface level. Like, the Empire at first not trying to be your enemy, but it's like, hey, we're your buddies, we're your friends.
Sure.
Again, that's kind of the divide between the First Order and the Empire. The Empire, they tried to, again, is very much like, hey, we're taking over, do what we say. We're trying to let's make a nice transition, versus the First Order of like, hey, bang bang, you're dead if you don't follow our orders. Remember, like I love that he tried to, they exchanged pleasantries at the beginning. Galen Krennic, saying, how are you? How are the family? Oh, they're dead, I'm afraid. And I love that. It's a very inglorious sort of setup from Tarantino. It's very a Hugo Weaving opening of like, we're hiding the Jews underneath the floorboards. So like, hey, can I have that milk? Oh man, this is great milk you serve here, buddy. In this case, oh my god, they could have done this with blue milk. Why didn't they do that in this movie? Sorry. Anyway, but yeah, you see what I mean? It's like kind of like it has that facade of like, hey, the Empire's your friend. Why don't you work with us? And he didn't want to kill the wife. He just tried like kind of talk down kind of a tense situation of like, don't you believe me? You don't want to do that.
Right.
I love where his art goes, by the way. I love at the end where Krennic's just like he's done in that great shot where he looks up at his own weapon about to fire upon him, because it's he and Galen were the masterminds behind the Death Star. This guy came up with the idea for the Death Star, and Galen was the one who gave him the weapon element of that.
Yeah,
Tarkin took it all away.
Yep.
I
love that Tarkin's the one that kills him too, by the way. You may fire one, right? Oh my gosh, love hearing that. I don't know if they pulled the audio from that exactly.
I'm sure I won't. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled the audio from like an alternate take or something like that.
Yeah, at the very least for that one. I don't know if they possibly used like a voice actor sound like for the rest of it. I know for that one line, that's absolutely. It could just be someone's doing a really good job, but still, that's absolute. That's Tarkin. That's his line, man. That's the Peter Cushing charm.
Exactly.
You may fire when ready. Yeah. So anything else on Krennic?
I don't think he's as memorable as someone. Obviously he's not as memorable as Darth Vader. He's like, as much as I kind of am in the Kylo Ren is overrated camp, I still think Kylo Ren's probably a more well-developed character than him. But I think just for the purposes of this movie, he's very, very serviceable.
He has a really cool cape, which unfortunately we don't get to see in its full glory with that beach storming scene, because he's just walking the dead stormtroopers in the water. That wasn't in the movie.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate, but that would have made for a cool shot. But again, I just love kind of that him just kind of being kind of that. Again, he's imposing when he has like a ton of stormtroopers behind him, but on his own, he has no cachet like Tarkin does. Tarkin, like you don't want in a room alone with Tarkin. Tarkin still holds all the power.
Which is kind of what I dug about his character, to be honest with you, was that he wasn't as much of a badass as some of the other. Like I said, he's much more of kind of like an everyman. Like he's just,
yeah.
You imagine he has like a wife and kids at home that he's trying to impress. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like in a way.
How's your day at work, honey? Oh, Tarkin stole my idea, and I'm really depressed. The Empire just doesn't appreciate me.
And
Well,
then
you know
I got
what?
choked
I
by Darth
appreciate
Vader,
you,
the Sith
honey.
Lord.
Yeah. And well, he does have a place of honor now. He is choked by Darth Vader. So I mean, he's the first choke. He's chronologically the.
Can
Well,
I
no,
just say,
it's Padme.
maybe my least favorite line is the Vader line of like, "Oh, be careful not to choke on your words." I just think that, like, the moment itself is cool. It's like, we get a choke. Okay, cool. I don't think that. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not nearly as bad as no, but it's a little too punny for my taste. The whole choke on your words thing.
Let's put a pin in that for when we get to Vader in a moment. But
Fair enough.
let's see. I guess let's move on then.
K2SO.
Yeah, K2SO. Oh my God, this guy steals the movie. K2SO steals the
I
movie.
knew he would. I totally do. Alan Tudyk is freaking amazing. Alan Tudyk is like, I think, like, forget Bill Hader. I think Alan Tudyk is kind of like slowly but surely making a move to be Disney's good luck charm.
Yeah, because he's starting to appear in every animated Disney film, and he's making a name for himself, all right.
I can't get over how much I like this guy. Might be like easily one of the greatest Star Wars characters ever, in my opinion.
His portrayal of Hey was oh man, give this guy an Emmy, please.
Right.
I think the best comparison I have for K2SO is he's kind of like, the best way I can describe him to people is he's kind of a mixture of C-3PO and Chewbacca.
I can see that in a way, yeah.
And that he's like the awesome co-pilot. He's paired with Cassian. He's kind of Cassian's co-pilot and his assistant. I'm sorry.
My favorite part with him is like, did you shoot that droid not knowing it was me? Or did you shoot that droid not knowing it was me?
That was great.
That was great. Of course, K2SO's dynamic with Jan is really good because he's very logical, but also he's like I love his story to it. They reprogrammed an Imperial droid.
It's definitely like the most sci-fi we've gotten out of the droids in the Star Wars universe so far. The idea of, reprogramming him, and he's almost a little bitter about fighting with the rebellion, but he's doing it anyways. You know what I mean? It's like there's some great kind of like Isaac Asimov qualities to that.
Yeah, C-3PO with kind of the attitude of Chewbacca is what I'm saying. It's like the awesomeness of Chewbacca putting the kind of the kind of droid-like kind of...
The sardonic, like,
yeah.
Dry delivery. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of it's like, what if it's prissiness with attitude, essentially.
I also have to think that Marvin from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was a big influence on him.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, what if Marvin had more attitude in a way? Like,
Sure.
But I mean, yeah, K2S, again, I love that he doesn't quite, with that, isn't quite get the humor in a way of like, he just kind of grabs Jin from the beginning, throws her to the ground, and he's just saying, "You're being saved. Please don't resist." Just being so happy in a way.
He kind of, I don't know if you have played Knights of the Old Republic, but he kind of reminds me of HK-47.
I've heard great things about Knights of the Old Republic, but no, I'm not familiar with any of the characters.
And someone was saying this. I realized that someone was saying in an interview with Alan, and they were talking about how K2SO, he's Imperial droid,
Mm-hmm.
and so he looks really cool, and he can do all this great stuff. But he's fighting for the rebels, so that's awesome.
Oh yeah, and I just love the logic of it. Like, they tell him, okay, you should wait in the ship because that we don't want to accidentally kill you.
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
But again, basically the only indicators that I assume the rebels did this just so they can maybe pick him out in the crowd, is that his lines on his design are painted yellow, where the other ones are red or a different color.
Yeah,
and that fight scene in the town where Jen shot the other, I guess, lookalike of him. she shot at it, and I was like, "Oh no, you shot him! What are you doing, you fool!"
Well, again, he's a droid, so he can be repaired. Because it looked like a shoulder wound, but then again, the K2SO is pretty durable at the end.
Except at the end, of course, he's not very durable there.
Well, I'm saying he's pretty durable because remember that one goes down after one shot, but the rest takes like 8. I don't know how many shots.
Yeah, but that was brutal. I mean, that was just brutal.
True.
But he can't really feel anything, so.
It's still
well,
sad.
I don't know. He kind of processes things, so it's kind of how much it
Also, like, why does she get a blaster and I don't?
I love that, but we'll get to that. Does anything? Katie West is just he's so great. Alan too just plays him so darn well, so darn likable. And again, it's pulling from the vein of Star Wars, but it's an original character. It feels very distinctly different than what we've seen, but it's like in the
definitely.
entertaining vein of like a C-3PO or like kind of the famous side character of Star Wars.
And I just think like he has so much substance to his character that it makes up for the other characters being a little bit more one-dimensional, in my opinion.
And again, the pairing of him and Jin really just again they have a really great. Again, I think Jin just makes the dynamics really sing with these guys, and she's really she's paired with everyone but one really in this movie. And I think in doing that, it's kind of making them basically she allows them to showcase what kind of makes them special in a way.
Right.
Let's see. Speaking of Jin, maybe we should talk about Galen. Oh, I'm sorry. We should go with the other guys first. Let's. So about Rook then, Bodhi Rook.
Bodhi, Bodhi, sure.
I think Bodhi's interesting. I just think he gets shafted out of the second to the rest of them.
I wish he had more. I wish he had more to do because again, it's kind of like Jin is definitely like I said. I think the execution could have been a little stronger, but she still has a really strong arc. This guy could have had a strong arc if they would have put more into it.
He's kind of defecting from the Empire, but he's also a friend of her father. He's a friend of Galen Ersos.
Right. So I really wish that we would have seen more of him. Like maybe seen him like in the opening or something like that. I don't know. Then again, he would have been a little young in the opening timeline wise, but.
And he's also he's that character who's like they could have really played him as kind of the logic. They kind of play him as kind of the logic guy from the Empire. Like what we're doing is bad. I want to get out of here.
Sure.
He surrenders to the rebels, but he surrenders to the wrong rebels. They give him the plans in a way of like, I surrender to the extremist rebels. Going to put this weird squid on me.
Yeah,
You know what's funny? I saw that exact thing done on American Dad. I kid you not. They did that exact alien squid thing on American Dad, where they went to space in it. So I know it sounds weird, but I kid you not. It's like there's this. I don't know if they pulled it from something from sci-fi or whatnot, but they have this giant tentacle wielding alien creature thing, like a giant version of what goes on the guy's head, because they have some sort of giant thing in the movie that this thing's stemming from, where basically kind of like they search people's heads and their feelings and stuff, and putting like the tentacles go in their ears, and it's just like it kind of reads their thoughts in a way. So that's kind of what they did here, but it's like a miniature version off of that big thing. Trippy. Sorry. I guess we should go to kind of our duo.
I'm still trying to figure out what's up with that squid because we never see it again. It's never mentioned again, and the guy's obviously fine.
Yeah, you're right. It's the idea is it's to make Rook a little bit more mysterious with the whole like him just kind of he's a little out of it when they find him in the first place. That's kind of the purpose of why they do that, but I don't think we really need that at all.
No.
Yeah. It's kind of a con for me. It's not bad. It's just really random and like, why do we?
Yeah, that's the perfect word. Random. That's really random.
I think the way some people feel about the Raftars in Force Awakens is the way I feel about this. Of like, do we really need those? I like the Raftars. I'm saying this is how this one I think is we don't need this one.
Well, with the Raftars, that gave Han Solo a chance to get away from the bad guys.
Yeah. In this case, it doesn't really serve a purpose. Here, it's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. We see it for a few seconds. I mean, and they make it seem like it's some big plot point or some big creature that's going to make an impact on the story.
Like the other reason it's here is like just to establish that Guerrero's gone he's an extremist now that he's doing things that are like a little twisted. So, yeah.
Again, showing the rebels not so squeaky clean.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, again, I'm not saying it's just not really. It's kind of a random one. That's all.
So should we circle back to Saw Gerrera? Speaking of which,
sure. So Saw Gerrera, in a way, is kind of the anti-Vader in a way.
Yeah, it kind of bugs me. Like I wish they would have been a little less over the top with how much the who like, oh, I can barely talk because I'm losing my voice.
I do think it's kind of cool. I just love seeing how he works, and I love how he's like the thing on the side, and he's kind of crank it up, and just like he has to take the breath every night.
It
Again,
is
I love
a
it's
really
like,
cool mechanism.
it's Vader on a budget. That's what it is. We saw with the Empire's like all the money in the world to make, like, we're gonna do the $6 million man approach on Vader, and we have the Rebels on the other hand. Well, he gets a kind of it's kind of less $6 million man, more like a HMO.
So I'm sorry, Dragon. I promised I wouldn't bring up the whole Cranston Godzilla thing, but
come on.
Saw Gerrera, it's better. It's better than the Cranston Godzilla thing, but I still think it's kind of the equivalent to the Cranston Godzilla thing for Gareth Edwards, where he's such an awesome character that I just think it's a shame he gets killed off as early as he does.
I personally didn't find him all that appealing. I felt that I think the voice just bothered me. It just kind of threw me off. I'm glad he was killed when he was killed.
Honestly, I thought it was cool, and apparently, now here's the thing. I don't really know much about it because I'm not into like the whole extended universe. Again, pretty much all I got is like the Clone Wars animated show and kind of the new comics that are coming out. But apparently, this guy was a big deal, and I believe he was in that Clone Wars series. I seen. I just haven't gotten to his episodes. Saw Gerrera is kind of a big deal. It's like we saw him like with all his limbs intact, and he had like a sister and all sorts of. He's big in the Clone Wars, and they kind of mention that like in a line here, like he's serving the Clone Wars, and basically all of his. Again, he's one of the original guys that kind of led the rebellion charge, and I'm sure he's in Rebels too, but I haven't seen him before.
Right.
Regardless, I mean, the guy has.
I love the idea with Saw, and I think in the scenes that he's actually in, it's executed really well. Where he's kind of like the anti-father figure to Jyn, where he's the father figure that she needed at the time, but he's not a great father figure by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he's the one that kind of gave Jyn sort of the cynical view of the rebels, and whereas that's kind of we as an audience get the cynical view of the rebels through his character. Yeah. So I don't know, like he is kind of like the necessary like first act death to kind of get the ball rolling on everything else. I just would have liked to see more of it. I honestly think if we would have gotten to see more of him, I think the voice could have been nuanced a little bit more. If Forrest Whitaker would have had more screen time to work with it.
Yeah.
Because Forrest Whitaker is a class act actor. I mean, come on.
He is. He's very good. Absolutely. Let me say this, though. With Gerrera, I thought it was interesting. I just would have liked to get to know him a little bit more before he meets his end. Because, again, I would have liked – I love the idea behind his dynamic with Jyn, with all the stuff you said, Tiki. I just wish we maybe could have spent more time with him. But I know kind of we don't really have time for that. We don't need – it's like – I think it would have been great to have. I think it would have strengthened his character, maybe give him some more explanation of why Saw Gerrera is a big deal. But he serves his purpose. What we see serves his purpose, but again, it would have been kind of cool.
Sure.
Imagine if Gareth Edwards had a running gag of like, what if Saw Gerrera is played by Cranston? He just keeps killing off Cranston in the blues.
Oh, God.
That would make that movie, that make the Godzilla thing better if it was just like
yes it would in retrospect. Yes,
it's like that's his anti Ratzenberg in a way of like I'm gonna kill him in a horrible way each time. Let's see. Let's kind of combine our two twofers here, Imwe and Malbus. And Malbus, Malbus is the cool. He's a mercenary.
Malbus is a cool name. Like I think that's a name that we're gonna get used to saying once we remember it.
Yeah. Yeah, Malbus, he's actually their dynamic is that he's a mercenary and he knows Imwe, and Imwe is just kind of a resident of Jeddah. He's just kind of the mystic, kind of Obi-Wan-esque character who he believes in the Force very much. He's just kind of from what I've heard, and just what I'm kind of gathering, because a lot of people are just kind of putting it together, I guess, because it makes sense to me. Like Jeddah is like especially with the giant statue, it's like this is the place where the Jedis were formed. And it's like I don't know if the Jedi Temple was here, but the point is, it's the well, I mean, Jedi temples are kind of a little bit all over. I'm saying this might have been like the original Jedi temple. The point is where the Jedis really found their stuff. This is like really where they kind of became found and everything.
Jedi. It was just like big place for Jedi, not necessarily where they were found, because that's where Luke Skywalker was headed.
Well, I mean, we don't know that 100%, but I think you're right. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I don't think it's openly stated. It's all was known really is that it was important to the Jedi.
Yeah, I'm saying there might be like more than one. There are Jedi temples like all across the globe, but what people are putting together is like, Jeddah might be where Jedi came from. Like people from Jeddah could be
Right,
Jedi.
right.
Or something something along
The
those
planet does kind of sound like the planet name kind of does sound like Jedi.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I don't
So
think that was unintentional.
so I think it's
I
what
know.
people are kind of putting together. Okay, Jedi stem from this planet, and then they just kind of spun off, and they kind of made the temples all over the place. That's a guess, Spirit. That's just kind of an educated guess. Anyway, so I like that Imway's kind of like, because of that, and because he's like a resident of Jeddah, he was really connected to that town. That's why he's really motivated with the rebels. I just love that these two guys are just having to be kind of random friends in a way. Like it's such a fun dynamic, like kind of the mystical kind of blind guy with the stick who believes in the Force, and the kind of the cool, tough mercenary with the giant guns. Kind of the
You know what's great? It's basically like Han Solo and Obi-Wan.
Yes, in a way. In a way, you're right. And a lot of people are really psyched for Donnie Yang. Is Yan or Yen?
Yen.
Again.
Yen? Oh, sorry.
Yep, Y-E-N.
People are really excited for him. And I got to see, actually, before the movie, I got to see like a clip because I knew the guy's name because it's been said all over the place for the movie. I got to see like a clip of him in action, and he was fighting like these guys in the karate uniforms, like in white and black. And I was joking, like, oh, it's like a tease at the stormtroopers, him beating the crap out of stormtroopers. They're black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he was. Oh my god, he was so awesome the way he took down all those stormtroopers.
I definitely think he's probably the second best character in the movie next to K2SO.
That is very fair because I love how he's very supportive, and again with Jin kind of complimenting each of these characters. I love that he's the guy who kind of he likes Jin, takes a liking to her because he notices the Kyber crystal around their neck, and he just kind of he tells her. He says, "I believe her." He's the voicing like, this girl's telling the truth, and we should listen to her. He's being very supportive, really nice.
Mm.
He is kind of her Obi-Wan in a way, if you look at her as kind of like the protagonist, the Luke-esque figure.
And of course, I am the Force, and the Force is with me is maybe
yeah.
like the new "May the Force be with you."
Yeah, and it's a way of like doing it in a different way, where it's just kind of it's a mantra, and they have that character like the skeptic, like, oh, you believe in that Force hooey.
And I would have liked to see more character development on Baze. Like I would have liked to see more stuff leading up to this moment, but the moment where Baze does start chanting that mantra is effing beautiful.
It is, and he's going to his demise to honor his friend too. Like, you just killed my friend. I'm gonna.
Oh God, it's so sad.
It's such a beautiful one, but it's so impactful. But again, I also love how they get roped into it. This wasn't their battle, but they're again, I get a sense the closest thing we get to a bounty hunter, Tiki, is Malbus, because again, he's kind of a mercenary, which is kind of close to the bounty hunters in Star Wars.
That's true.
So it's kind of cool. They're kind of eclectic group because our main rebels, it's Jin, Cassian, K2SO. Those are the main rebels, and the rest of them just kind of meet each other along the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Because Greg kind of he's an outside rebel. It's like this guy's like he splintered off into his own group. Let's see. Last one I guess would be Galen, and we already talked about Krennic, so then we'll move on from there. Galen SO is Erso. I really love Mads Mikkelsen in this movie.
I still think Disney has a tendency to underuse him, though.
That is fair because I need more Mikkelsen, man.
I know it's like the second movie in a row, like the second movie in 2 months where he's underused.
But he's so darn good, isn't he? You got to watch Hannibal, Tiki.
I know. Really quick before we get into this guy, since Sandy has to go soon. Sandy, anything in particular you want to bring up? Anything that you want to get off your chest before you have to leave?
I really didn't find the music very appealing. I think I stated that before. I'm not sure if it was off air or on air, but I didn't think much of the music, But again, that's what I thought with Goosebumps, and then I went back and I listened to it and I loved it. So I might give this a listen. I might really like it. I know some of the stuff could be drowned out with all the loud sound effects and everything. Of course, this is the most battle-heavy Star Wars film, so that might have something to do with it.
Well, if anything, I think the ending with the Vader stuff, that's when the score really gets good.
Yeah, and I think original score. That's mostly what I mean. Original score and themes for characters. I really wasn't picking up a solid theme for this film.
There weren't any really solid themes for characters. You make a good point about that.
Yeah. But other than that, I think I've covered everything.
Cool.
The future of Star Wars spin-offs, I think I'm really anxious to see where they go with them. I really am. I'm anxious to see what they do with Obi-Wan and Boba and Han Solo.
Obi-Wan needs to be a straight-up Western.
Yes, very much. It needs to be Shane. It needs to be Shane.
Yeah, that's all I have to say, guys. And on that note, I have to get out.
All right. Peace, Sandy. Thanks for joining us.
All right, see you guys.
Laters.
Right.
Okay. Okay, so circling back around to Galen.
Mickelson does a great job. I think he plays a really good father. I love the beginning where he's someone's pointing out it's very samurai-esque, and I think they're right. There's a samurai influence to a lot of Galen stuff, and just the whole protect the family because so the emperor's going to ask you to serve sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's really one of my favorite moments we're going to talk about later features Galen. A lot of my favorite moments do revolve around Galen because I just think we got to see a good father figure in Star Wars for a change, like a good father in Star Wars for a change.
Right, exactly.
He doesn't chop anyone's limbs off.
Okay,
He does contribute to the death of a lot of Alderaanians, but
I know I was like trying to think of a way to form that as a joke, but
he did leave a gaping design flaw, so he helped.
okay. So should we get into Vader then?
Certainly, yeah. We kind of talked a lot about Vader already, so we can pretty much just kind of cover what we didn't cover. Vader.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I love the hideout in Mustafar. It's very much kind of like it reminded me of Lord of the Rings a little bit in a good way, where it kind of reminded me of Mordor and Sauron's Tower and stuff like that.
I'm just surprised they didn't say the planet it was on. I mean, it was definitely Mustafar, episode 3. But they said every other planet's name. Why didn't they mention Mustafar's names?
I agree. That's the point.
That might just be them being a little afraid. It's kind of a mixed thing because then again we see Jimmy Smits as Organa, but it might be them just kind of being a little fearful to admit that we're kind of flirting with a prequel movie already. So if we go further into the prequels, we might bring up some bad memories.
Right.
Well, episode 3 was like the best one of the trilogy.
I know. I'm just saying, like on the whole, they just might be paranoid. Like even if it's like the best one out of the 3, like there's still gonna be.
It still gets mocked pretty heavily for.
I mean, bear in mind we still get elements from. We have Organa was in 3 and he was in this too. So I mean, both elements from Jedi were from Sith were in this.
Yep.
Let's see. So again, I love these they build out this mysterious powerhouse. But and of course the scene where Krennic comes to visit him again, we get to see the insights of what he is out of the suit. Also.
Although if I were Vader, I'd kind of. I mean, I know it's like supposed to be like symbolic and everything, but I'd at least build it in a place that's away from a giant lava flow.
Well, I mean, come on, he's lost all his limbs. And look, what other bad thing can happen to me at this point?
He could fall into it, and he could slip and fall, and no guardrails yet again.
Okay.
I sleep in a bathtub tank. What kind of life is this to lead?
It's like the Homer Simpson clip where he keeps falling down the canyon. It's like he falls down the canyon and then he goes in the ambulance crashes, and then he's on the gurney and he falls down the canyon again.
You don't really get a good look at it, but it'd be interesting seeing like the bonus features, whatever, when we get this released on DVD. Most likely with that commentary first. Because unfortunately, I found out I'm going to have to buy New Hope again because not New Hope. I'm going to have to buy Force Awakens again because it doesn't have commentary in the first one.
And they're doing one with commentary now.
Yeah, that's what I'm sorry. Yeah, the 3D. I have to get the 3D version because the 3D version has commentary. Which makes it
wonderful.
Yeah.
This is why I pirate things, Disney. No offense.
The point is, like on a bonus feature,
commentaries.
on a bonus feature, something would be really nice to see. Like, because we get a little glimpse at it. They're like a really cool CG kind of mock-up of basically they fleshed out what Vader looks like under the mask, but in a really cool way. So like I've seen some people put up like imagery of Vader outside of the mask, like when talking about the spoilers for the movie. I have to wonder if it's like actual or not, because if it is actual, it looks really cool. It's like kind of a new take on it. Because
my heart dropped because I was like, "Oh my god, are we going to get to see Hayden Christensen act again?"
I'm saying it's like kind of a neat thing of like it's not. Again, it's kind of hard to tell. It's like he doesn't. His Christensen was freshly burned by the end of Sith, so you don't really know. He looks like a little more. He's getting to the place where it's like really powdery and really like years have gone by, but. the Jedi, when he's unmasked in that last season, he's an older man now. There's part where he's kind of in the middle of that, where he's just kind of he's living with the burns. I don't know. It's like some seasonally adapting. It's kind of hard to say. I hope we get that fleshed out in like the bonus feature, like seeing what he looks like in the glimpses we did get to see.
Sure.
So the point
what
is,
do you guys think about the whole line of like choke on your words or whatever? Because like I said, I'm not a big fan of it personally.
Overall, we should talk about James Earl Jones' performance in addition to that too, because he does sound discernibly older.
He does. Yeah, I did notice that.
I really wish they maybe chose his dialogue a little more carefully. I mean, look, in the grand scheme, I think it was just so cool, like it doesn't matter. But at the point that I would like him, if he sounds discernibly older, we could have just like maybe limited his dialogue a little bit, just made it like every word count in a way. And with that, it's like especially in the moment of seeing it, like I was just so impressed of like, oh my god, it's Vader, he's back. He did the Force show. I didn't mind the line. You're right though. It is. I will say this though.
It's the most punny line in the movie.
It is punny. It's like it's the most tongue-in-cheek line in there, but it works though. Basically to me, like he made it work a little bit. Like if Vader's gonna have like a punny line, at least he made it.
He's Darth Vader. He's Darth Vader. He can get away with it.
I mean, he did like there was the big Force choke moment. Like, yeah, it's really winking to the camera, but you know what? He's so cool. He made it work to me. To me, he made it work because it was just so cool.
And what was Krennic gonna say to him? He couldn't like tell him off because of the joke.
Well, Mary was. I know Krennic said like. That's what he said.
Yeah.
So again, we already talked about kind of how awesome Vader was at the end. Just his unstoppable forcing. It's a good build up for how he is in New Hope.
Speaking of which, though, there's no dialogue in that scene, which maybe makes it like a lot more effective than the first time he shows up.
Oh yeah.
Would you guys have been like really disappointed if that was all we got was the one scene?
Which one scene out of the two? So I mean
the choking scene, the first one.
If the choking scene is all we got, well, I mean,
I would have been really disappointed. I would have been like, yeah, that's. I mean, it's just kind of like an obligatory fan service choke out, and that's it.
I think I would have been satisfied if even if we didn't get the scene where just he's tearing things up as he does, which believe me, I think really makes the film. But even if we didn't get that, I think in terms of just Vader himself, I think as long as we set up that he's on his way, I think I still would have been okay with it.
Right.
As long as like if we get the shot after he does all the damage, where he's like looking at the ship on its way, like we know Vader is coming, we saw it, like we're building Vader, it still would have been okay. But now the way we've got it now is really impressive with both scenes.
Fair enough.
His slaughter of the rebels, though, that's the hellfire of this movie.
Yes, it is. Very much so.
Yes. It's just perfect.
Let's see. So next, I guess we should talk about the effects and the scale.
Yeah. Gareth Edwards, man, I definitely had some mixed things to say about him in the Godzilla movie. I still think the Godzilla movie is kind of a mess in terms of story and character and everything. I think the Aaron Taylor Johnson character might be one of those bland characters in modern blockbusters, in my opinion. Guess what his one character trait is? He disarms bombs. I wonder if that'll come in to play at any point in the third act. But I digress. Gareth Edwards, I think, is now like a new master of scale, though. Like, I give credit where credit is due. This guy is a visionary filmmaker.
Oh, yeah.
I just think, like, absolutely every freaking major scene in this movie, every set piece is just, like, I just love, of course, we saw, like, the little tease of the satellite being put onto the Death Star, but seeing that all, like, kind of take place in, like, the glorious detail of it all. The Death Star, the Star Destroyers. I love, of course, getting to see the AT-ATs from ground level.
One of my favorite shots is how like how we see the Star Destroyer, but then the Death Star come out of the shadows. Like, holy crap! Holy crap! This thing's gigantic.
Right.
Just like in the trailer when we saw that with Scylla, just with all the visuals, mainly all the stuff in space. What I really love with that is that I love how it captured the model look so well. It looks just like the models from the original film. Like it basically captured. It feels like it's from the 77 films. The way they're revealed it from the shadows. They look like I mean, it's like a great mix of like they look like real ships, but at the same time look like the models. Like it's such a wonderful, like it sounds so impossible, right? It's like how can you make it look like it doesn't feel CG in a way. It feels like okay, it's
No,
it's
I
like,
understand what you're saying.
it's like you're understanding the original effect, but in the modern day.
To me, there's almost kind of like a Lego quality to the Star Destroyers in a good way, where you can just see how like every individual piece of that thing fits together.
And I know how they did that. They there was this thing on one of Kevin Smith's shows where they revealed that they talked to he went to Lucasfilm. They talked to one of the guys behind the movie, and what they did is they did the original process they created the ships with in the '77, where they bought like train and car sets, and they basically took the pieces and they put them together in interesting ways, kind of like a Lego in a way.
Uh-huh.
But like model kits, and they constructed them so they as parts of a ship, like the Millennium Falcon is constructed with parts from those kits. So that's how they did the ships for this movie, as well as they tried to capture the old feel how they made the original in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
So they could link it as closely together to A New Hope as possible.
And speaking of scale, when the AT-ATs just came out of the trees, when the people are on the ground,
oh my God.
The sudden appearance is what really got me. Like, oh my God, I love how sudden the appearance of that thing was.
I mean, they just came out of nowhere, and like you just saw how massive those things were.
It was like a blast of smoke, and then it just came out out of the smoke. That was great. The whole thing, all the effects are just astoundingly beautiful and of the time to me. It's really
I was like, holy crap! There's like 5 of them just charging through this forest.
I love. I think the best example of scale is when the two Star Destroyers they kind of take each other out when like a ship pushes one of the Star Destroyers
you kind of
into
took
the
one of my favorite moments right there, but yeah.
Ooh, that's what we get for not planning on advance on
I
those.
know. I have the favorite moment section is going to be mostly like, hey, remember that part? Remember that part?
But oh my God! I won't talk about it too much. Just say just the scale of that is just it's
one of the things that I really love in terms of scale is the Star Destroyer hovering over Jeddah.
Oh yeah, we talked about it there in the trailer
it's beautiful.
too. And again, I think the lighting is what sells a lot of that too. I think what gives it that model look is the lighting is so excellent in this film.
Right. And I still think that the opening shot of that second Force Awakens trailer with Rey and the crashed Star Destroyer and everything, that is what makes Star Wars to me. And I think this movie is almost kind of like I think the Force Awakens, like the stuff on Jakku has a lot of that kind of scale stuff, but then once we got into space, I think it kind of it's ironic, isn't it? Because I feel like this
I think space looks better here than it does in Force Awakens.
Absolutely. Whereas I feel like kind of like the ground level stuff on Force Awakens kind of maybe looks a little bit better. But it's ironic that I feel like, in my humble opinion, I think this movie has a slow first 15, 20 minutes or so. Then it just keeps getting better and better. Force Awakens is kind of the opposite of me. Like I still can watch the crap out of the first act of Force Awakens. I love all the Jakku stuff. I just think it kind of like gradually falls off the wheels a bit as the movie goes on. Whereas here it's like the complete opposite. The wheels just get more and more greased and fine tuned as the movie goes on.
Oh yeah, the locations are real, and which makes them very believable and practical. So, shooting in real places, and the only CG element are the AT-ATs and stuff. That's really
right.
Just kind of adding the effect, quite literally, just the effect itself. Aside from that, it's all with K2SO, of course. But aside from that, it's all very.
KTSO, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some puppetry involved in some shots.
Well, according to Alan Tudyk, there's not. But
there's actually motion capture.
Yeah, which Alan Tudyk's done before, so it's about it.
Motion capture is basically digital puppetry anyways, so fair enough.
Let's see, again, I mentioned this beforehand, but I love the use of archival footage, which just makes it seamlessly blend. In addition to that, I love that, again, it just looks like I was scratching my head during the film, like, how are they doing that? It looks so much like the original movie. It's like takes we didn't see.
We definitely had discussions when this movie was coming out, with the trailers and stuff, like, gosh darn it, I wish they could have figured out a way to bring Tarkin into this movie, but I guess we can't expect it. And Dragon, I tell you, when I saw Tarkin, I was just like, you know what? I don't care if it's still a little bit in the uncanny valley a little bit. I don't care if the effect might be aged in a few years. I'm just like, the fact that this character is in the movie and it's like a perfect likeness of Peter Cushing, it's magic. It is like movie magic.
Honestly, I would have been satisfied if we just had when they teased again. Same thing with Leia. I still would have been satisfied with just like seeing them from behind with a look like, and I get what they're doing. They're using the audio, and they're showing the reflection. That's really cool, and I would have been satisfied with that. But then when we saw kind of the same thing, not as much as with Leia, but just when we saw Tarkin, it was like, oh my god, they're doing it!
Right.
Yes, yes. Oh, it was a beautiful thing, and the fact that, oh my god, and he gets to say the line. He gets a, "You may fire when ready." Oh, it's so. It was really classy how they brought him.
Element of this movie. He's not just a cameo. He's like an essential supporting role. I'm so glad they managed to make that work because I don't think the plot would have worked as well without it. Because he is an essential part of the Death Star.
He's basically
this technically isn't the first time we've seen Tarkin brought in the Star Wars movie with the advent of CGI. We saw that done once before.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Jacob, you have something you want to say?
He's basically Krennic's antagonist.
Which is great. Yeah, you're right. He's the antagonist to the antagonist. Like I said, I think Krennic, like the great thing about Krennic is how relatable he is. Just kind of the whole like idea that he has like a wife and kid at home and he's just trying to pay the bills.
Everybody thinks that everybody has a boss.
And Tarkin just plays like he just plays intimidating so well.
Yeah, absolutely. And Peter Cushing, posthumous Peter Cushing plays intimidating so well.
And I love Kevin Smith pointing out that he gets more screen time.
It's so weird to say that.
I think Kevin Smith made the wonderful observation that he has almost equal, if not more screen time than the original Cushing alive.
I think he does. You're right. Yeah. Which is
really
insane.
strange.
I mean, it's like, next thing you know, it's like we're going to be getting Alex Guinness Obi-Wan. It's like anything.
Tiki, when we get to the speculation, I'm going to say, I think at this point, with effects like this, honestly, it feels like the sky's the limit now with that sort of effect. But now we can, I'm not saying do a full movie, because that's when you start getting into some iffy territory.
But maybe like a framing device, possibly.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We're starting. Tiki, like, this is the only thing I can call it. This is like the Spider-Man era stuff we're getting this year. It's like now we're getting closer to the sky's limit. Like it's like once we get Fantastic Four, we hit everything from Marvel. It's like getting us closer to that with Star Wars.
Sure.
Like the next miracle we get with Star Wars, it's going to be the Fantastic Four for Star Wars. The next miracle we have.
It seems like Furious 7 did that earlier with Paul Walker.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, again, we've seen some of this done beforehand of just like kind of like bringing someone back posthumously. But this is still like this is the, they're doing it really well. Like they're using like it makes sense too because in Marvel they have like kind of the Lolita. It's not Lolita, but it's like whatever the effects called where they they've made their actors younger.
Robert Downey Jr. and Civil
or
War,
Michael Douglas.
Yeah, sure.
So they have that technology. It's occurred to me. I felt so stupid at some point. Like, yes, why didn't I see that coming? If they did that with Robert Downey Jr. all under Disney, why didn't I put that?
But the difference here is that like Robert Downey Jr. is still alive. It's like they basically brought someone back from the dead.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, we gush about Tarkin all day long.
Yeah.
And I believe in this version we saw. Did we see Tarkin full figure? We saw that. We saw he did one thing Cushing didn't do. He actually wore long pants and boots.
Right.
The other Tarkin did. We never saw Tarkin from the waist down in the original.
Just guys, we are like living in science fiction land officially now. When it's like
they gave Tarkin
like
boots.
A CGI version of Tarkin is like being on par with real Tarkin. It's. I literally feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone now, and my computer's just going to kill me at any moment.
Soon we're going to find out that Breaking Bad secretly, through all these seasons, they had the CG the pants on Cranston.
Oh God! that was a stipulation in Cranston's contract. It's like, you know what? New Mexico's very hot. It's uncomfortable to shoot in. If I'm doing the show, I'm not wearing pants on set.
To CG it on.
All right. Enough.
Or in other words, fix it in post.
Oh God. Okay.
Yep. Well, on those really hot days, you don't want to know what they did.
Oh,
God. Okay, let's see. So moving on. Let's see. Let's get to the music real quick.
Sandy kind of touched on like I generally agree with Sandy. To me, I think this is like maybe a minor step above the Jurassic World score, and I wasn't a fan of the Jurassic World score at all. I don't necessarily think the score is a negative. Like, I wouldn't put it in the con category in this movie, but I don't think it's super memorable either. One of the things I do like is I like that they don't try and recreate the whole, the main Star Wars title crawl theme all that much. They kind of go with variations on it. It's a little, it reminded me of a more effective version of what they did with the Clone Wars movie, where they opened it with that weird, like, serialized, like, da 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 da. It's like, I think this was more effective, where it's like, it was Star Wars-like melodies, but not necessarily, like, the main theme. So it's good for what it was. I just think Giacchino, I don't know, it's a weird thing. It's a weird kind of recurring pattern for Giacchino, where it's like, I think his original scores, like stuff like Doctor Strange or The Incredibles or something like that, is just like, I feel a lot more effective than when Giacchino kind of tries to step in and do something with a score that's already like very established and in the public consciousness, like Jurassic Park or Star Wars. So
no, I think he did a really good Star Trek
kind of career path with him.
I think he did a really good rendition on Star Trek. I don't know. I like that Giacchino is getting his foot in the door on doing Star Wars, and I think it's a good element that he's just I thought it brought some good themes here and there, and also Williams. I want to say he. Obviously, they're using some, reprising some Williams theme, so that's why his credits there. But I also think, the fact that he worked in Force Awakens and the Rey theme, I think he's helping out with a few themes here and there. So the point is, I think Williams is transcendentally involved on the films that aren't the main, Force Awakens, the main Star Wars films.
Right.
Regardless, I think we got a few good, mainly the Hope theme. The Hope theme is kind of Jin's main theme, I believe. And the big thing I think Giacchino does really was the ending, where we kind of like the operatic Darth Vader theme.
Sure.
And also, what I like throughout the film, but it's really expressed in the end, but right before we get the operatic Darth Vader thing, I love that there's a sad triumphness to the score, especially in the end, where of course when they all meet their maker, it's kind of a great kind of it brings tears to the eyes sort of thing of like, oh my god, if you hear this, like, oh, it's like it accentuates the moment in the ways you want it to. So I think it plays more to moments than the whole thing, which is it's a little different. But again, I think once we get more Giacchino doing score, he would be one of my go-to guys to take. If not Giacchino, then Alan Silvestri would probably be some of my go-to guys for Star Wars.
I still think it's a shame that what's his name? Desplat didn't get to do it, because I think Desplat would have been like one of my.
You're right. That I would have also liked to hear his score too. Yeah. All right, so let's see. Moving on to pros and cons.
Pros and cons. Okay.
Hey, pros. Let's go laundry list of pros.
Just like basically like the Kevin Smith, this Kevin Smith style, like just fan service, but deluxe, like luxury fan service.
It's a great cast of characters.
Just of course we just gushed about the effects and scale, so no.
It captured the feel of the original trilogy, which is very important, while still being something new. It's
like one of the only blockbusters in the history of filmmaking I can think of that had the balls to kill off each and every one of its main protagonists.
It links up fantastically.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Vader, I think that sums it all up. Vader.
Vader.
Fixes
even though the
logic
effect is not
issues.
quite still there, Tarkin was a wonder to behold.
Yeah. Fixes a few logic issues with A New Hope.
Sure. Jacob?
I was just going along with what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
They creatively found a way to remove the easy plot hole from episode 4.
Sure.
It's a rousing adventure that captures why we rooted for the rebellion, even though here we get a little more insight on that they weren't exactly they weren't the white hats versus the black hats as we thought they were. There's a little more complexity there, but we still rooted for them.
And kind of goes along with Lucas's hopes of being serials.
Can I just mention too that Lucas actually really approves of this movie, surprisingly. He I don't know much about what he said, but I know that he is much more on board with this movie than he was with Force Awakens. I think he kind of agrees with Kevin Smith that the fan service in this movie serves more of a story function than it did in Force Awakens, where in Force Awakens it's like the whole South Park member berries thing, it's like, remember Chewbacca? Remember the cantina? Whereas this, it's just like, oh, we're just going to sit back, give you a nice back rub, and help you remember. And,
The other thing, though, you gotta take it with a grain of salt with what Lucas is saying, because on some level it might be a little bit of, I don't want to say embitterment, but think about this. Lucas, whether he meant it or not, whether it was just, again, to save face or not, when Force Awakens came out, it's like very publicly, it's kind of a public failure in a way, in that, hey, you were going to do these other films, but then you kind of sold it, kind of gave it over to someone else. So publicly, whether it means it or not, he has to say, well, I don't approve of the new stuff, but this is servicing
Yeah,
my
but he
old
gave
stuff.
reasons for not liking Force Awakens that I agree with, though.
And again, believe me, I want to buy it. I want to say this. I'm just saying, I don't know. I think we should just keep it in perspective. A lot of this might be kind of Lucas just kind of. And we've seen more of a complex view on George Lucas and stuff.
I mean, fair enough, but I'm just saying, look, it's like if anyone is going to have an authority over Star Wars, even now, like, just it's going to be him. I mean, he is still, like, he's not the owner of Star Wars anymore, but he is still the Lord and Master of Star Wars. I still take his word very seriously.
Sure. I definitely understand. Like, I think this does fit in a little bit more. Again, I think it's a testament to this film. It fits in so well with A New Hope. Even the original creators like sign off and like, yeah, this is great, guys.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Which, and I think that kind of, like, you can give George Lucas a little bit of credit, in my opinion, where it's like, yeah, like, I don't think I'm not the only one who The Force Awakens kind of rubbed the wrong way. Like, I think The Force Awakens is an okay movie. I think it kind of just, like, dims more and more the more I think about it. And I think Lucas kind of pointed out some very credible things that kind of makes it a flawed movie. The fact that it is kind of essentially a recycled version of A New Hope, like beat by beat story wise. I know we've already I don't want to beat a dead horse into the ground with that, but but just to give George Lucas credit, I don't think this is him being like, I really do think this is just like, he's not bitter necessarily. He's just like, okay, this is what I wanted to see. This is like kind of like actually taking the foundation of Star Wars and doing something new with it.
Yeah. And it's like kind of like a George Lucas kind of blue milk and a smile moment,
Now I'm just picturing George Lucas with like the blue milk mustache. Oh God.
It's kind of funny because he was entirely blue.
Oh God, I want to Photoshop that now.
Don't put it on this video, all right?
All right, I won't.
Anyway, so we got K2SO. Of course, he's a huge pro. Yes. They're not shying away from death and the death and the down ending, because again, it's down with a little bit of hope.
I still can't believe every single main character died. I not for a second watching this movie until it happened did I think they'd have the balls to go.
I thought, like, for a part of me, originally I thought Diego Luna like bit it right off the bat when he fell. It looked like he broke his neck or something.
I thought so too. Yeah.
But in the end, the grand scheme of, now I'm thinking about it now, because in the moment I was just so caught up, I didn't really think of like who was gonna. Again, I was wondering before going into like who's gonna, is everyone gonna die or not? Because a lot of people are thinking like Vader's gonna kill them all in the end.
Yeah, people like Collider Jedi Council and shows like that. There was kind of a debate. Like some people thought for sure they were gonna all die. Other people thought they were gonna get out of it. I was in the camp where it's like, look, even if story wise it would make sense that they all die because they don't show up in A New Hope, it's Disney. Disney would not allow a movie where every single main character dies. No,
I'm sure Dylan from Basement. I'm sure Dylan from Basement though would love this movie.
Oh God,
because he's in that camp right now. We're gonna see what happens next season, where it's gonna be again Dylan. We don't see him in We don't see him in Psycho, so he could leave, or he could meet a Rogue One fate.
Anyways.
Let's see. So the point is they didn't shy away from that. Yeah, apparently, logically, I think out of all of them, the one Cassian would have been the one to survive, possibly. But
right. Or even K2SO, possibly.
K2SO, possibly, sure. But again, droid's kind of expendable by design. So especially his like a battle droid of some variety. So anyway, it's beautifully directed, as we said. And the last thing, he utilized Tarkin and Leia very well. And on the whole, just again, the ending stuff, best part, ending. Love it.
It's some of the best Star Wars stuff ever.
Oh, God. Every time I think about that, it just makes me happy. Yep. So, cons.
I will definitely say the first half hour is slow. It's a little too slow for me. I think that's kind of like a universal complaint people have with it.
majority of my cons are just kind of like, yeah, it would have been kind of cool, but I can live with what we got. Is that I think we're missing some really awesome shots, but again, that's just kind of a lot of people are blaming on reshoots. I'm just saying that was just like trailer stuff.
I don't want to hear about the reshoots, man. Because
I'm not. Yeah, we don't need to talk about it. I'm just saying a lot of people are saying that. I don't. It doesn't matter either way. I'm just saying I think that the missing shots would have been cool, but they're put in the trailers. Let's say that much about it.
It's not a Fantastic Four situation by any stretch.
Anyway, so I think a few of the main gripe I do have, I think this one is great. I think a few of the names are just a little complicated. And again, I think we could have made them a little more streamlined, more easy. At least call them by a first name. So give them we have to go by. Pretty much, they're making us go through the action figure experience. We got to figure out what the guy's name is by looking it up.
But you know what? Maybe that was intentional. Though.
That's what I'm saying. Even if it's intentional, I think it's still kind of look, guys. It's kind of cute, but still, come on, just give us a name that we can go with. All right.
Like I said, I think that over time we're going to get way more used to saying these guys' names than we are now. I think Chirrut, Baze, at least the first names I think are pretty easy to remember. And I think Jin and Cassian and K2SO are at least, I can remember those three names off the top of my head. And those are
well, it's not like Kit Fisto or Kit Fisto or anything.
Right.
All right, let's see. I think it's I think it's a hard sell to. Sorry, I'm trying. Saw's stuff isn't super necessary. Again, so the Saw Gerrera stuff. Again, I think he's a cool character. Yeah, a lot of people really had expectations for this guy. I think, but in the main plot, again, he doesn't have a lot of super importance. He shows you the holograms about it.
I mean, I think he has importance in terms of building Jin's character.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like I wish they made his stuff a little more. Again, he's not really tied into the events as much. He's they kind of established okay, he's on the side. He's not a main rebel. He's just he's the extremist guy. We meet him and then he kind of gets killed off as the signified we're going.
Hey, here's this crazy cyborg guy. Yay!
So we don't really see that much good he's doing. We just see him blowing up stormtroopers.
And driving a person insane.
Yeah, like I said, it's the idea of Saw Gerrera that I like more than the actual execution of him. So,
let me see. Oh right, I'm sorry. Remember, I was trying to say. I'm sorry, I just figured it out. I think it's in the end where Jin's just trying to convince the rebellion. I think it's still a hard sell that the rebellion wouldn't be on Jin's side when she brings him that information. Hey, the Death Star is a big vulnerability, and we need the blueprints for it, and that they're not instantly on the side, but they are later on. I think it's kind of a hard sell. They're not instantly on our side. They put it to a vote. What kind of Mothma? Show some. Mothma and Beard Guy from A New Hope, whose name escapes everyone. Just let's. You know what I mean, the beard guy, the guy who goes through this, right? Well, let's just trust this. What else are we doing to stop this weapon? Otherwise, let's go with the girl everyone else is vouching for. We see later on at least 10 people vouch for. So let's just go with that. Let's just try this. Even if it's a suicide mission, what do we have to lose?
Right.
We got nothing else to defeat this thing. At least someone's bringing an idea to the table. And everyone's on her side anyway. She gives a rousing speech. Again, I don't it's kind of hard so that there would be any debate over let's go and do this. It seems unnecessary. Why don't we just have him? Basically, the only reason that's there is to give us the name Rogue One. That's the only reason that's in there, Tiki.
You're right. You're right.
Could have used more Empire as the bad guys, because aside from the fact they're developing this big weapon that, basically, aside from that, and they blow up the town. I really don't see. My point is, we know the Empire's bad from the other movies, of course. We know why the Empire.
I honestly think we got a good amount of the Empire in this movie. I don't think we need much more than what we got.
I mean, maybe that's intentional. Maybe that's just showing the rebels. I mean, they show the rebels are questionable. I just wish they showed why we should definitely see. Okay, Empire is worse than the rebels. We definitely get it.
Well, I mean, like I said, it's Star Wars is iconic, so I think we all know from the other movies.
And I'll admit that was more of a devil's advocate thing. So again, all my gripes are they're pretty much just gripes of it's just questioning. Could they have made this better?
Fair enough.
Anyway,
any cons on your end, Jacob?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not a lot of cons.
Right, so I guess Yeah. So I guess, future of Star Wars.
Well, favorite
spin-offs.
moments.
Oh, favorite moments. Right,
Real
right.
quick. I love the Galen's hologram message.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I think I've kind of like mentioned most of my favorite moments already. You know, there's like the Cantina guys that show up. Jacob mentioned the K2SO bit where it's like, did you know that wasn't me?
Oh, the Stardust.
Yeah. I don't really have much to contribute in terms of favorite moments.
One that I really want to mention is they're putting the bag over Chirdimue's head.
Yes, I'm glad
That
you
was
did bring that up.
hilarious.
That is a very good crowd pleaser moment. Are you kidding me? I'm blind.
That was awesome.
So with the hologram message, I just love the emotion in that scene from Jin of just like hearing from her. I think it's good It's great acting on both sides. Just like a father telling his daughter like, "Oh, like I'm working with the bad guys, but it's for you. It's for the benefit of everyone."
Sure.
It's really nice. There's good acting on both sides there. The Scarif's destruction, as when everyone's kind of getting killed off in that blast moment, it's a really powerful moment. This kind of part of the ending I already mentioned. I love the blaster moment with K2S. That's probably my favorite K2S. That's just showing that Jin, she's come around. The two of them like each other. Where he says, "Why don't I get a blaster?"
Yes.
He gives her the blast. She gives him the blaster. And then he says, he just has this really sweet moment. The best moment he can communicate as the droid speaking the way he does. Just says, I'm trying to remember the
You
line.
were full of surprises, Jin Erso.
That's the line, yes. Oh, it's so beautiful. Just like in full surprise, she gave him the blaster, and he used that blaster in the end to great effect. Oh, it's so darn nice. And Galen and Jin's reunion's really touching of how he dies in her arms. It's like his last moment. He gets to see his daughter again after all these years, 15 years.
Just because of the rebels.
Yep, I know. Again, they're showing the complexity. I like that. Last thing for me, the big one I have to mention. I love one of my favorite moments. I love Galen saving his attempt to save the Death Star crew for a moment. Where it's just like it's a real tense scene where it's all being seen by Cassian, where it shows you the strength of character that Mickelson's bringing to Galen. The little moments we do see with him, where it's raining out. He's like saying, "No, wait, don't. It wasn't them. It was me." The way I thought it was going to go, like him saying, "Oh, you're just trying to protect your crew. Kill them anyway." But no, just kill them anyway, and yes, you're dead too.
Mm-hmm.
That was beautiful, good heroic moment for Galen, showing he had to save his guys.
The movie definitely kept you guessing.
Oh yeah.
Okay, future Star Wars.
Okay, so I mean, let's just kind of touch on like the biggest idea we have, which is this whole Western Obi-Wan thing.
I've been campaigning for that one for the longest time. I've always wanted to see like Ewan
The
McGregor.
Cantina is like a perfect like Wild West saloon shootout location. It writes itself.
I want Shane meets Godfather. That's what I want. I want Shane meets God. Basically, the bad guys are the Hutts. I want Obi-Wan to go up against Jabba the Hutt.
I'm leaning more towards Darth Maul myself.
Well, I'm just trying to think. Because Darth Maul at this point is cut in half, and he does come back. I'm trying to think of like.
No. He comes back in Clone Wars. Clone Wars is canon.
Does he get killed in Clone Wars? That's my question.
No, he's alive in Rebels.
Yeah.
There he's alive in Rebels. Yep. Well, I mean, it'd be. Oh, look. Why not the best of both worlds? You could tie them in together. Like Jabba the Hutt brings in someone. Who's he going to bring in? He brings in Darth Maul.
I just think that Darth Maul just has such a personal connection to Obi-Wan.
I did
No, I think it'd be.
The death of Qui-Gon.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
No, I think you could maybe have both in there.
Yeah, but like I said, it'd just be wonderful to like fully explore Tatooine again. Maybe get into kind of some of the pod racing dynamics, perhaps. Other sides of that universe that we haven't seen in a while.
What I'd really love to see with that be great, because now we can do this. It'd be so great if we have Ewan McGregor come as an older Obi-Wan on Tatooine.
Ewan McGregor is just an actor who's like really fine-tuned his craft since the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, we have him as Obi-Wan through the majority of the movie, but we can end on Alec Guinness now.
Yeah, exactly.
Or we can link him up in key places wherever the points we can end with Alec Guinness is strategically placing it. We can age him up and see him looking upon a young Luke, perhaps.
Well, how about a movie that takes place in the distant past of Star Wars, like far beyond the prequels?
That could also work.
I definitely think that's going to come for sure. I think maybe after the Han Solo and kind of the obvious spin-off stuff.
Kind of like Knights of the Old Republic.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised if we just got a flat-out Knights of the Old Republic movie, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. Let's say I don't want to just keep talking about the Obi-Wan thing because I've said pretty much Obi-Wan he's trying to keep quiet.
We could do a whole podcast on that.
Just pretty much, so the real quick summary. When I say Shane is I hope I'm using the right movie because I learned recently that Shane was the one I keep thinking of when I keep thinking of this mold of this Western. Is that it's basically you have the cowboy in the side doesn't want to get involved, but then he gets involved facing off kind of the big kind of crime boss Western figure. In this case, could be Jabba the Hutt. And you play more like kind of the Godfather, and basically Obi-Wan kind of coming out, basically making a name for. This is why Luke knows of Ben Kenobi, this of that Ben Kenobi figure and tattooing, because he made a name for himself doing something like that, or maybe if not Jabba, maybe he's fighting
Also, maybe see some of his connection to Owen and Beru as well.
Certainly, again, just he's looking over this kid, and this Owen's kind of living down the failure and just trying to kind of these things. I just sees potential in this kid for years down the line. So again, you can do an interesting thing. Maybe he bonds with the young Luke, perhaps. I don't know. Like the neighbor guy from down the street. Like, oh yeah, I know him. Get some other directions here. Again, first of all, things are looking better for the anthology films after this film. So
absolutely. Absolutely.
I think Han Solo is going to be great because it's in great creative hands, and again with these effects we have now, again I think Han Solo is going to be in great shape. If we don't get a Boba Fett film, which Boba Fett, we are still getting Boba Fett, but it's down the line.
I would venture to say I would love to see a bounty hunter movie with Boba Fett as a supporting character.
That's a really cool idea too. I'd be down for that. But again, I'm saying if he's not in his own movie, which I'm sorry, not that obviously he's going to be in his own movie, but I mean if we don't get that, or they somehow change their minds on that. Regardless, even if both, honestly, I would still love to see Boba Fett not only in his own movie, but in the Han Solo film as the antagonist, or at least as one of the antagonists.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it depends on how far back they want to go with the Han Solo stuff.
Honestly, I'm hoping they go the kind of the Christopher Reeve Superman direction with Han Solo. We see kind of 3 eras of Han Solo. We like the young kid, then we get the one who's been cast. The one who's been cast, and maybe get an older version of that kid, or the recast guy.
And then the CG Harrison Ford.
Sure. If in place again, I'm saying all of these.
It'll happen.
I'm gonna have now. I have a standard. All these films have to end with the older versions of the characters if they do any of these now.
Oh God.
Now there's a precedent set of there's no reason why not now.
Exactly.
Honestly, it's gonna be. It's gonna sound simple, but I want all of these anthology films that are set in the past to end with the CG shot of them all grown up. Let's see. Now here's a big one. This is one that, especially with the kind of the resurgence of Vader's popularity, and just the point is, Vader's always been popular, but of course, bringing him back. I've told you I've read the Darth Vader comic, which is really good. Now I don't know how they feel about adapting things, but again, that story they can do their own take on it, but there's a lot of really good stuff in that Darth Vader comic to pull. So I think
there's several sources of Darth Vader that they could pull from to make an original movie, the same way that Marvel pulls several. There's Shadows of the Empire, the N64 game, which also had a tie-in book. There's the what is it? The Force Unleashed, where Vader kind of had an apprentice on the side. Yeah. I think you could work all of those ideas into a standalone movie, and
certainly.
Not
so I'm saying
directly be an adaptation of anything in particular, but use a lot of those ideas.
Well, I bring up adaptation because, again, these are kind of pulling from the recent Star Wars comics, which, again, according to them, these Star Wars comics, they're really, I don't mean just to keep bringing them up, but they are really well written. They are kind of fitting. They're filling the gaps in between the movies. That's what these comics have been doing. Mm-hmm. And in this case, you could adapt it verbatim, or if you want to do original story, which I'm fully for, as long as you bring out certain characters from these things, which would be great, which is, I think, a reason to do this film. Because basically, there's a thing where, again, this would fit into what Rogue One's doing. What Rogue One does, it's kind of filling the gaps between the Star Wars films in a way. You could do with Vader is that the Vader comic, at least the first arc, or the point is the Vader comic takes place in between New Hope and Empire. It's the majority where that takes place in. So you could do something kind of like that, where it's again, maybe if James Earl Jones isn't available, or you want kind of a more consistent Vader and get Matt Sloan, perhaps. Again, I think he'd be a good one to get. Point is, like, he has these Vader's. The crux of the story is he's tracking down Luke. He doesn't know his name yet, so he doesn't know Scout. He just knows the boy who blew up the Death Star, the X-wing fighter blew up the Death Star. I'm looking for him, and by the end, he finds out the news of, like, you tie into Empire where to that scene where he finds out it's Skywalker.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The point, that's how the comics kind of go on that. So they work it in really well. And the point is, the main reason I bring up doing a Vader film is he has these 3 excellent characters. There's mainly it's one with 2 droids. That's what I'm getting. It's like Dr. Alphara. Dr. Alphara is this young character. Tiki is like, this would make the best movie ever if they made this. It's this young girl. Not the young, it's the young lady. It's a grown woman. This girl who basically, she's really inventive. She's like a brilliant inventor. And basically, Vader's doing something. The Emperor's really pissed off at Vader for letting the Death Star get blown up. So basically, General Tarkin's dead and everything. He's just really ticked off at him. So basically, he's like looking at the new guys, and points Vader's trying to win over points. He's trying to kind of maybe go against the Emperor a little bit. As we know, he's planning in the Empire and Jedi. He's trying to go up against the Emperor. So this is Vader going behind the Emperor's back, doing some stuff, and he runs into this girl who basically builds him droids and kind of helps. Basically, Vader gets a sidekick, and it's awesome.
Right.
And the best part is, the last thing I'm going to say, because I want to go into long, this is like the last, is that their dynamic has this beautiful moment where it's like, I know you're probably going to kill me, but I want you to promise me something. If you're going to kill me with your lightsaber. That's all she wants. Like, again, she's more than willing to die working for Vader, but she just wants to get killed with that lightsaber. And like she creates the evil C-3PO, which is awesome, called 000, and she creates the evil R2-D2 that's like a giant gun storage thing called BT-1. So again, this is a lot of awesome stuff in that Vader comic. And again, you could tie it into the movies very well, as that comic series does. So that's definitely a way they can go, especially if you're capitalizing on the Vader popularity. Last thing is, in that book, and this would tie into the Boba Fett movies, that Boba Fett, he's teamed up with a Wookiee in that book called Black Krrsantan. Black Krrsantan is basically, he's a black scarred up, evil-looking Wookiee, and he has a grudge against Luke Skywalker. It's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you want to do it, the closest thing we're ever going to get to a Rogue 2 is, not that we're going to get that, but I'm saying this is like the other mission, the Bothan's mission. We can make that into a movie.
Yeah, and also just kind of a more generic idea would just to do a Rogue Squadron movie.
Yeah, I think that would be. Yeah, I think Bothan's just the other way to go. Is that'd be in the spirit of Rogue One, but it's also like it's for the next Death Star.
Really, it would be. I don't know. I just think like I'd like to see the Rogue Squadron kind of expanded upon a little bit more, because it'd be another kind of opportunity to have like these action figure type characters, for lack of a better phrase. Like the Porkins, the the Wedge Antilles, like those type of guys. I would love to see a movie kind of based around them.
Sure. And also, with your bounty hunters idea, I just want to mention that again in the Vader and the Star Wars comic, in the two main comic series, the bounty hunters do factor in that. So maybe another way of maybe playing. And again, the Star Wars comics are kind of doing what the Vader thing is, in that they're filling in the gaps between movies, which essentially is what Rogue One does. And honestly, a part of me wants like all the crawls turned, like the adventures in between movies, to be made in the movies like Rogue One. Part of me doesn't realize that means every character would have to be CG. Is like, yeah, you can't.
No, don't have the episode 1 crawl be a movie, please.
You know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I'm just saying that's like the big hole in your thing right there.
Exactly. Well, I'm sorry. When I say all the opening crawls, I mean for the original trilogy.
Okay, fair enough.
Those adventures, which again the comics kind of adapted, but also like we see Dengar. Dengar's like we see Dengar fighting Luke, and we see a lot of the other bounty hunters have factored into those main stories. But if we did a bounty hunters movie, that'd be another cool way of just showcasing all those guys.
Right. What about a Yoda movie, like a young Yoda? I think that would honestly really work.
From what I've understood, I mean, I don't know how much of these are official anymore, because kind of keep changing the lineup and moving them. So I thought we had Han Solo, Yoda, and Obi-Wan. From what I understood, is no longer like official. But from what I understand, it's
happen.
From what I've heard, we are officially getting Han Solo, Yoda, and Boba Fett, and the unofficial one would be Obi-Wan.
Okay.
I'm saying that's what I've heard. I don't know if that's changed at all since then. I assume if Lando Calrissian is well received in the Han Solo film, then he'll do his own spinoff.
I don't think Lando needs his own spin-off, but that's kind
I'm
of...
just saying, I presume that'd be the logistical thing of like, hey, people like this character, let's give him a
Michael B.
movie.
Jordan is young Lando.
Well, we already have a young Lando, Tiki.
Oh, that's true. We do. I'm sorry.
We could have younger Lando, and he Michael.
Fair enough.
Oh no. But, let's see. But again, yeah, transcendental, you could always just tell the. I'm sorry. Yeah, the people have been campaigning for that Boba Fett movie. I think all the attention is going to be focused on that Boba Fett movie once it gets made, because people have been waiting years just to get more Boba Fett.
It might be like the Star Wars equivalent to Deadpool.
Possibly, and it'd be cool. Let me ask you this: do you think it's going to be a continuation? Do you think it's going to be like placing them in between the movies?
Well, like I said, I'm still like holding on to my theory that Benicio del Toro is going to be in Episode 8 as Boba Fett. I'm still holding on to that until we hear otherwise. That's still my theory.
I think it'd be cool. I'm not shooting it down, but I'm just I don't know. We can create new characters too. That's all.
Yeah, but after this movie, anything's possible in terms of
right.
service. That's all I'm saying.
You're right.
But in terms of Boba Fett, I think the logical place to go with a Boba Fett movie would just be to show the Sarlacc escape forward.
Yeah. I mean, I think that'd be very. Yeah, I think that'd be really cool. Again, that'd be a lot of untapped potential. And again, you don't really have to get a specific actor. You could always get,
Right.
I forget if the voice actor's still around, because I know someone related. Jeremy Bullock passed away, so I believe that was the physical actor.
I don't know. I thought it. Yeah.
I'm saying we went through this before. I'm pretty sure I used to think Jeremy Bullock was the voice, and then Jeremy Bullock was the physical actor, and he passed away.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's about all I could keep going in terms of it. That's like I said. I really do like my idea of the Rogue Squadron. I think that would work really well. Knights of the Old Republic, as we already said. I think that would be an easy direction to go in.
Again, I think just pulling any of the Vader stuff from the comic, or just doing a Vader film would be kind of the instant kind of cash grab go-to. But I think if they pulled from some of the good stuff, I think with all of these, what we're saying is, with the exception of Boba Fett. Sir, Jake, we have something?
No.
What about a droid movie?
That'd be really interesting, because remember, we had the animated show.
Something in the style of iRobot.
Well, would you start the who would you have starting? Just an original droid, or would you have just kind of the
probably an original droid? I mean, maybe like I wouldn't even work in like R2D2 or C3PO into it.
Well, honestly, I don't think they would. I like where your idea is going here, but I'm just saying I don't think they would ever sign off on a film where we do not have C3PO and R2D2. They'd be like, "Are you insane? Do you know how many years we put these guys in the movies?"
Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't show up at all. I'm just saying, like, maybe not have them be the main focal point.
Yeah. It sounds interesting, but it also sounds like, well, we already had iRobot when we saw that one. That's kind of what it sounds like to me. I mean, I'd be for, again, we saw what they did when they created an original droid. In this case, it worked fantastic. So I'd be on board to see a droid-led movie. That'd be cool.
Right.
I just have to really hear a good story attached to it, though. That's all.
Okay.
Like, what can we do from a droid's point of view we haven't really seen yet? But I mean, I'm just not thinking of it. So, But I think with all of these, with the exception of Boba Fett, I think with all these we're saying, like, we could squeeze this in between areas that, much like Rogue One did, like areas that we can buffer and that still wouldn't hurt anything, but also like flesh out the universe we already like.
Oh, I think another point that I think we need to see at some point is between episodes 6 and 7.
Oh yeah, again, there's tons of story potential there, and again,
Right.
you can have the actors age and maybe you can youth them up a little bit using the Michael Douglas thing here and there. Actually, this is gonna be. Let me throw one really out there theory at you guys.
Okay.
There is a lookalike to a Star Wars character who is a great actor. We've seen him before. We love him. At least I love him. Sebastian Stan. A lot of people think that he does look very much like Mark Hamill if they put his hair like Mark Hamill, he's a dead ringer for him. So would you be for him as like a young Luke in between 6 and 7?
It's funny that you mention it, because before we knew who Domhnall Gleeson was playing, I totally thought he was a dead ringer for Luke, like Luke's son or something like that with the hair. But no, yeah, I mean that would be I could see that.
I'm just saying, well, how do you feel about like recasting him versus, like, again, I love them doing the CG thing, but if you were like not going back but going forward, like maybe again, if they're a real dead ringer, maybe again, if they can play it right, if they can do like.
I mean, of course, the Han Solo movie is kind of going to be the litmus test of that whole thing, of the recast.
You're right. Yeah, that's going to be the real big. It's going to be that again. I look at they keep taking chances with these movies coming up. So episode 8, of course, is going to be like now we're back into the fray fully with Luke, and we're kind of in a post Han Solo
but episode
world.
8, I'm excited about just because of the Rand Johnson factor, of course.
Of course. But again, going into our next anthology, it's going to be a big because that's going to be a maker. Short of Boba Fett, the other one, huge ones. Han Solo and Boba Fett are the most popular characters in Star Wars, possibly. Aside from Vader.
Yeah, aside from Vader, yeah.
Ooh, a Palpatine movie. There'd be something. You can play with the actor if you put him under the makeup. Again, as much as we love someone, that'd be.
We could do a whole podcast about this.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so I guess final thoughts. Point is, future Star Wars is filled with hope. A new hope.
And I definitely think just well, I'll get to my final thoughts, but Jacob, you've been quiet for a while, so what are your final thoughts?
I honestly do like Force Awakens better than this movie, but I still think this holds up on its own very well. And as you guys are right, it does actually. Yeah, you guys are right. It does open up a new chapter for Star Wars and many potential more.
Mm-hmm. Dragon, final thoughts.
This movie was a delight. It's really hard to rank because again we have a whole lot of really good Star Wars films. We got the original trilogy and Force Awakens and this. Again, it's really they're really. I've said this before. They're really not similar because I really love Force Awakens, but I really like this. And again, we kind of made the points of I think Force Awakens is still strong, even going to the third, because again we have the battle in the snow, which is really powerful. Of course, the Han Solo. We got a lot of really strong stuff in there. Because
the X-wing stuff in this is way better, though.
It is. You're right. The space battle stuff is good. I think it might go on like a hair long in places. Basically, the shots that aren't the spectacle, the shots aren't like the really cool stuff happening. It's just maybe we cut back to space a little too often. Again, space looks so good that we're just having. Basically, it kind of seems like we're spending time in there where we could spend time back on the ground conflict. Again, that's very minor because again, it's like very. I'm talking about like the percentage of like 2 minutes in the whole action sequence. Bear in mind, so that's very minor. So, my point is. They're great in different ways. I love seeing the old school stormtroopers. I wish. Again, it's kind of cool. Like all the honestly, I love being in this universe of like these are the corners of Star Wars we haven't seen.
That's one of the things we never touched on, though. Just really quick, I love how they got kind of the old school like stormtrooper voices and dialogue down in this movie.
We also have Death Troopers. I like again the variations. Like we don't really get a lot of this, but it's kind of there's a fun meta gag here, Tiki. That the Death Troopers, the gag is that they're actually dead shots. They're actually really good shots, and that they actually killed the wife as their first. They actually killed people instead of missing people like crazy.
Right.
And later on, I mean, they're more deadly shots because I believe the Death Troopers are the ones that kind of kill our guys versus the Stormtroopers. They miss a lot during the action sequence, and mostly the regular Stormtroopers get killed off. Mostly the black Death Troopers they kill before they get taken out.
Mm.
But again, it's like you're building a new mythos basically you're building new mythos in a familiar world versus we're fleshing out that familiar world to places that really make us appreciate that familiar world even more so. So again, it's really apples and oranges. I can't rank them. It's like a part of me would maybe put Force Awakens up because I still have a lot of. I had both really good experiences with them. So again, I just can't rank them.
I think Force Awakens was obviously kind of like the bigger, more exciting, like theater going event overall.
Yeah.
Just circumstantially.
Yeah, but again, they're both very excellent films. I think we should take that away. They're both really good films. And they're, again, good direction we're going in with Star Wars right now. It showed us getting back to my final thoughts here, it showed us aspects we've pushed aside while focusing on the main story with Force Awakens. So again, as we said, we're just kind of, we're kind of building the familiar, so what we appreciate going forward even more so. Like, oh yeah, we're just Star Wars. Can't get enough of it. It's great. We have a film that gives us a new hope. A New Hope's opening crawl, just expressed in a film versus dialogue, which I'm still just jazzed in my mind about. Oh my god, it's so clever. Last thing my experience watching the film, I was just smiling uncontrollably at that ending. Of like, I was just smiling. Like I was almost like welling up. I was like, oh my god, it's so like not out of like sadness. Like it's so touching. Of like it was just like unconsciously, like, yes. It's like the smile was so big on my face, my eyes were watering. Like, yes. Just like I love the audience reaction, and everything. It was a really good experience. It's like it measured up to the Force Awakens experience in a different way. It was kind of a similar,
in a different way. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Like, that was like the 30 years now new Star Wars versus like, hey, oh my God, you're transported. Basically, I think the experience Kevin Smith felt when he walked in the Millennium Falcon for Force Awakens was the experience everyone else had with this movie. Like you're transported back quite literally with this one.
I'd agree. Yeah, it's just there were like fan servicey stuff that you just never thought you'd see on screen again.
Yeah, like, this was fan service, but with a good story, and that's really what it boils down to for a lot of the film.
Which is why it's better than The Force Awakens. I'm sorry, that was unnecessary.
Anyway, just again, it's fan service with a good story, and it's a direct story. It's a story you know, but still, it's told in a very fun way. It celebrates all you know and love about Star Wars. What more can you ask for?
Well, folks, like I said, I think I'm definitely going to overall. This is already way higher on my pedestal than Force Awakens is. I know we keep saying like apples and oranges and all that, but just in terms of like getting me excited about the franchise in general again, Force Awakens will fall into like I'm sorry, it's just kind of nostalgia porn for me in a lot of aspects. And this, there was nostalgia in it, but I just think it was like the craftsmanship of it and the screenplay and the writing and all that. It's like one of the things that really bothers me about Force Awakens is how tongue-in-cheek a lot of it is. Like I think a perfect example, kind of like the last example used to kind of sum up all of my thoughts, is like in Force Awakens we just get that dumb Han Solo line with the Starkiller base, like, oh, there's always a way to blow these things up. Whereas in this we get the artfully, like the mind-blowing, like, oh my god, like that is how the whole thing that blows up the Death Star came to be. So I mean, it's like Force Awakens is fun. It was a great cultural event. It was a wonderful theater-going experience. I think I'm going to rewatch this movie a lot more. I can't wait to show this movie to my dad. My dad's a big war movie fan. And it just makes me excited about Star Wars in a way that The Force Awakens just couldn't for me. So I know that I understand that kind of people in general, the majority of people probably think like this is good, but maybe a bit of a step below Force Awakens. I'm on the opposite side of things, and I respect that I'm kind of in the minority there. I just think this movie, for me personally, like it ticked all the boxes I was looking for. I
think it's on an equal level, but on a different playing field, maybe. I mean,
fair enough. That's a good way to put it. And like I can't emphasize enough how shocked I was that every single main character died. I still can't believe that happened. I saw the movie twice, and I still can't believe that happened. So, anyways, I guess that is about it, folks. So thank you for joining us. We'll be getting back to our regularly scheduled seasonal shenanigans podcast. Shenanigans. I can't say
Shenanigans. All of shenanigans.
We'll be getting back to that. We'll have everything. We have 6 more to do. We'll have that all posted for you guys by Christmas Eve. And in the meantime, the Force is with me, and I am one of the Force. The Force is with me, and I am one of the Force.
Force is also with me, and I am one of the Force too.
Ditto.
All right. Have a good night, folks. Are you kidding me? I'm blind!